gym. I ate right. Oh no, you give all the credit to God for everything that you've ever done. And if our people who have been through so much, if we just take a little bit of credit for ourselves, was so upstanding, he's like, oh man, I gotta stay focused. I can't be going to sleep with my wife. We're trying to win this fight. We're trying to win this war. And when I don't know if you know boxing, but before a fight, you don't want your legs to get taken away. You know what I mean? So he's like, no. So he's so dedicated to fighting for David. He says, look, I don't want to go spend this time with my wife. I got to get back out here, so we can make sure I be in my right mind to fight this enemy. And this is the thanks he gets, So again, to point out the fact that Saul, when you said that the Bible says that God told Saul, I've chosen one better than you. How can David be better than Saul? Saul never took nobody's wife. He never, slept.
It's like it's just so crazy. I'm already saying he's better than you. We didn't put this man to the test yet.
But we just totally look over that and just be like, that's cool because God said so, or because this book says so, and that's where we're just absolutely out of our minds with this entire book.
You're absolutely right, man. Because the question that comes to my mind is, you choosing one better than me. So where was David this whole time? Had he been better than me this whole time? Why didn't you just choose him and leave me the heck alone? And I wouldn't have to be going through this. You see what I'm saying? I done risked my life and took my men into this city and tried to kill all these Amalekites and stuff for you. I risked my own personal life trusting you. And because I didn't kill a couple of animals, because I was going to sacrifice them later, dude, to you. But now you're going to take my whole kingdom and tell me that there's somebody better than me. Like that don't hurt enough. To hear an all-knowing God tell you that I got somebody better than you. But why is he better than me? Because you made him better and made me worse? Is it my fault that he's better? And what makes him better? And again, you're supposed to just read this story and not question it. Just because it's God, right? It's men's literature, but you're supposed to see it as it's God and just move on like that's the smartest way to handle it because it's God, right? That's the absolute best way to handle this because it's God.
Hey, Kevin, one thing I want to point out, if you read this story, if you read some of these stories in the Bible and it doesn't bother you, you have to ask yourself, what type of person am I? Like, where's my morality and my thought pattern? Like, what type of person am I to read this and not have a problem with it? So that's sometimes you got to ask yourself that question, because I'm way back in Genesis with Esau and Jacob, and I had a problem with it saying, God loved Jacob and hated Esau. I'm like, why you hate Esau for what?
Before the man was born. How you hate a man before he was born? It's crazy.
Right. So I'm like, and then it's like when God told Abraham that his people were going to be in bondage for 400 years, like you say, before they were even born. He's already decided this. Like, what type of God is this?
No.
And it's like he's the most. It's like you in a relationship. You in an abusive relationship. And it's like if anybody else treated you this way, you would tell you like, man, you need to sever that relationship. You need to get away from this person. But not this guy. This guy can do anything he wants to do to you. And you just got to take it. You have to accept it. And it's his way, no matter how horrible it is.
That's bullshit.
And that's dangerous.
Yeah,
that's dangerous. And everything you do good, you credit it to him.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Everything you do wrong is because you messed up. You made the mistake. But anything you do good, oh, thank God. Give God the glory. You'll never have any self-confidence. You'll never have any self-worth. You'll never have any confidence if you can't take some of the credit that, you know what, I did this. If you lost weight, I got up early and went to the gym. I ate right. You give all the credit to God for everything that you've ever done. And if our people who have been through so much, if we just take a little bit of credit for ourselves, let's say God was responsible for some of the things, if we just took a little bit of credit for ourselves, because we need that. We've been stripped of everything. We need that little bit of confidence. We need that little bit of self-worth. The all-knowing God should understand. I'm just speaking from the premise of if he did exist, because a lot of people who may see this still may feel like he does. You know what I mean? So if he did take credit for it,
why would you think it's a he and not a she?
this person.
Why did man live then give you a he instead of she? When you should already know that the only conscious thinking creator here on earth is the woman, besides the animals that produce. I'm just saying.
Have to do something in order to make this happen. But no, they're like, nope, don't pick no credit. Don't give God the glory. That's nonsense.
I would 100% agree, man. And again, if you can't think outside of that, someone says it's almost like having a relationship with the narcissist, and that's exactly what it's like. When you're dealing with a person who says, I'm right and you're wrong, simply because I'm stronger than you, that's just a horrible way to run a relationship. Just think about that. If we operated in this way, men would be running their households, right? Funny to even say that. Men would be running their households because they got opinions, it's theirs, right? But they would be running their household by way of saying, I'm stronger than you. I can beat you up, so therefore, I'm right about every freaking thing. There's no way my wife can know more than me because I'm stronger than her. She cannot beat me in arm wrestling any day of her life. On her strongest day, she probably couldn't beat me up on my weakest day. Therefore, everything she says is wrong and I'm right. And this is the idea you get from this guy. I'm stronger than you, so I know I'm right and you're wrong. But based on what? I mean, the thing about it is, again, when you look at the way this man or this character carried himself in this literature, he's not that intelligent. Again, he supposedly knows everything. You're going to find here coming up that even him giving you knowledge is based on something evil. Okay, so we're now dealing with a child now that was now born out in the marriage or the consummation of David and Bathsheba when the first child was murdered, because God was true to his word in the literature. He really killed David's son. This next son, of course, is born. His name's Solomon, and he is now going to be the wisest king ever in the world. The wisest king to ever live is what the Bible says. So how did he become the wisest king that ever lived? And I'm going to pause for a second, Ricky, and I'm going to let some comments come up. If any of you know how did Solomon become the wisest king that ever lived, please comment for me. I just want to see kind of the knowledge of the people listening. How did Saul become the wisest king to ever live or ever will live according to the Bible's literature? This is going to be good. I wish we had like the Jeopardy music in. Somebody said because the book says so, I can't argue with that. But I'm looking for specifics. I hate to be about semantics, but I would just like to know if you know what in fact that he did in order to become the wisest king to ever live or ever will live in the history of life. Solomon is the wisest person that ever lived. I'm gonna give it a couple more seconds. If we don't get it, we're just gonna roll with it. Someone says we know none of these people were actually real. Not at all. You're right. Didn't God give him wisdom? He did give him wisdom. But the question is, why did God give him wisdom? Everything makes a lot of mistakes. Should be wise. That is true. You should learn from mistakes. God bless me. It's true. When God gives it permission to kill people, that's anger him if someone's last turn the other cheek. Missed a lot of it. Okay. So, all right. I'm going to give it to you. God makes Solomon the wisest king that ever lived because Solomon sacrificed 1,000 animals to him. So the Bible says that Solomon sacrificed 1,000 animals to God, and God smelled this smell, of course, and then told Solomon, with this type of sacrifice, you can just ask of it and you can have it. And then Solomon said, of course, I want wisdom. And God said, if you had asked for anything, I would have given it to you. So, of course, I will most certainly make you not just wise, but the wisest king to ever live. So Solomon was made the wisest king to ever live because he killed and burned 1,000 animals. Now, please tell me, why does the murder, and cremation of 1,000 animals constitute being the wisest king to ever live? Please tell me why an almighty, all-knowing God saw that as being worthy of being anointed as the wisest king to ever live. Please tell me that. And it's based on, people say, well, it's not because he sacrificed the animals. It's because he was given the option to ask for anything but ask for wisdom. No, he was given the option to ask for anything because he sacrificed 1,000 animals. Please don't jump one part to keep your own. The whole reason we have this premise, if they say that as if Solomon didn't kill and cremate these animals, God would have came to him anyway and said, ask what you want. That smell of nothing in my nose is awesome. No, it's because he killed 1,000 animals. And this is the idea or the concept of God. Just tell me how crazy that is, bro. Like, how crazy is that?
If you're not looking for legal help or are currently represented, press 2.
Put this shit on YouTube.
You've reached requestlegalhelp.com. If you're looking for legal help, press 1. If you're not looking for legal help or are currently represented, if you believe you've been discriminated against or harassed, not at work, please press 1. If you believe you've been discriminated against or harassed at work, please press 2. If you are being, please key in your 5-digit zip code. Your call may be recorded for quality and training purposes. RequestLegalHelp.com. This is Rita. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, great. Yes, I can hear you. I believe you called us last December 4 regarding falsely accused and incarcerated. Are you calling for the same issue?
Yes, ma'am, because I'm like, and no one called me back about this here. And what I'm saying to you right now, because I'm not understanding this here at all, because this is almost like when the doctor diagnosed me with being HIV and I wasn't. I called you guys then. That was 3 years ago. So it's like no one called me back for that. Ain't nobody called me back for this. I'm not understanding this.
Okay. Now, sir, the fact that no legal provider called you last December, it means that no one is available to assist you in your area for this legal issue. I would highly recommend you find someone else for you to be further assisted right away, because the turnaround time for someone to call you back supposedly is only 24 to 48 hours.
Okay.
If more than 48 hours and no legal provider called you, that's the time we would highly recommend you find someone else.
Okay, thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate you being straight up with me. You have a beautiful rest of your night.
You too. Have a good one.
At least she told the truth that our fucking legal system ain't shit. Our legal system is only shit for those people who ain't shit. And that's the ones that got that shit. And when I mean the ones that got that shit, the ones that got that shit bag full of fucking money. It's bullshit when the fucking truth is a lie and the lie is the truth. And you can die for just telling the truth. It's bullshit. But we the fucking sheeple, we've been taught so well to believe in the God and the Jesus, to the point where we following Jesus just like lambs to the fucking slaughter.
Let me jump in, Kevin. Okay, you can look at it like this. Solomon still asked for something for himself. He could have asked for anything. He could say, this world, I just want this world to be better. I just want us to not have to kill anybody else. I just want us to be in peace and harmony for eternity. I want us to go to paradise. Everybody right now that's living, let's go to paradise. No, he asked for wisdom for himself. You know, he didn't ask that everybody on the earth right now use wisdom or exercise wisdom. He just asked for wisdom for himself.
Yeah, he didn't ask that all other religions be destroyed and just this one be true so we didn't get confused. He didn't ask that.
That's for himself.
He didn't ask
He asked for women, but he asked for wisdom. Ooh, so we look at these things as being so great because that's what we've been taught. If I ask for wisdom right now, God would the make-believe God would give me anything I ask for right now, and I ask for wisdom, you would say I was the dumbest person that ever lived. You see how I use wisdom, you know, we'll get to that. But out of all the things that I could ask for right now, I'm asking for wisdom. How is that going to benefit the rest of the world? How's this wisdom going to benefit the rest of the world? You know, so.
And what's crazy is they're going to find out real quick how much that wisdom benefited them, which is wild. Now, we're dealing with an all-knowing God who knew Saul was going to sacrifice those animals, who knew Saul would answer via I want wisdom, because God created him to do so. So the sheer fact that God created Solomon to burn those animals and say out loud, I want wisdom, is not a testament to Saul and his beautiful mind or heart, because God knew he would ask for wisdom. It's not a shock to God. So therefore, when he says exactly what God knows what he's going to say, he deserves a reward, right? So let's reward him. Queen Azuri said, why did God protect those innocent animals? Why is it necessary to kill these animals just to become wise? Why is it necessary to slaughter to get God's attention? You know, guys, just so you know, this is God knows everything before it happens. Now, don't get me wrong, you're going to have some Christian apologists who looks at this video and says, Kevin, you're taking it out of context. The sheer fact is, these things actually, factually, literally happen in this Bible's literature. These things happen. You can try to paint whatever picture around it that you want. The sheer fact that God maneuvers throughout this way is just horrible in itself. And I don't think anybody can disagree with that who has the knowledge to understand that this is man-written. If you, of course, believe it's God,
I keep on trying to tell y'all. Don't none of y'all know the man or the men who sat down and put that Bible together. Y'all don't know their hearts. You did, because first of all, when you look at that Bible, you got to think about the bullshit.
Solomon actually worshiped false gods. Solomon was made the wisest king ever. Okay, he was advised by surrounding kings that he shouldn't date these young girls. He was now let me say this slowly. He was the wisest king that had ever lived or ever will live. Yet he had advisors. Did y'all hear that? People advised him, Saul, you should not date these young women. Saul went against their advice and dated these young women.
See how far back the pedophilia go?
The wisest man,
because I say this here for you to know.
Now, I want
one thing about the divine creator that created the man and the woman.
And then
they created them for each other.
Man to ever live. This exact same person
when you into going into the knowing and leaving the bullshit of believing alone, because you're not a child.
He worshipped false. He was the wisest man in the world and fell victim to worshiping false gods. It's just ironic. It goes to show that there's no hope for anyone else. This man is the wisest man in the world. He couldn't get it right. We might as well just jump off a cliff. Like, it's just nothing we can do, right?
You know what, Kev? No, the wisdom, and again, when you start thinking about this differently, you gotta understand. Maybe he came to the realization that this God that he was worshiping wasn't, you know what I mean, what he was supposed to be, you know what I mean? So that's why he started worshiping other gods. He was like, man, this God I'm worshiping, he's kind of crazy.
He got fucked up. They did.
Well, hey.
That's why they got so many of them. That's why they got so many of them, so y'all can fight against who God is the greatest. That's bullshit. There's only one divine creator within us to be creators.
Once Solomon does this, of course, God gets mad at him, right? But God forgave Solomon, okay? And for those of you that don't know why he forgave Solomon, well, it's because Solomon killed 144,000 animals and burned them this time, and then God forgave him. Now, this is what you got to understand.
Got microwave on
Solomon now, who killed 1,000 animals to become the wisest king, has now made the mistake of worshiping false gods. In order to get God to forgive him for worshiping false gods, he killed 1,000 animals times
electric shit.
144,000.
You
understand what I'm saying? That probably ain't right. One times 144,000. But he killed 144,000 animals. And then God forgave him.
I wasn't paralyzed.
So what does that tell you about this character God? He obviously loves sacrifice. He loves the smell of animals. It's just a ritualistic God who's okay with you killing animals to show that you're sorry. So for Solomon worshiping false gods, it was worth 100. It cost the lives of 100 and the blood of 144,000 animals for God to find it in his heart to forgive Saul. Just think about this. And God knew it all would happen. So now, because of Saul, 154,000 animals are murdered, and none of it results in punishment from God. It results in being the wisest king that ever lived and being forgiven for worshiping false gods while being the wisest king that ever lived. Now let's talk about this guy and why y'all think he's so perfect and holy. Because this is in y'all literature, and y'all will still say this dude is holy, which is just ludicrous to me, because how can he be? How can he be?
Let me point out something, Kev. With what I was thinking about when you was just speaking there. David broke one of the 10 Commandments. Solomon broke one of the 10 Commandments. Saul didn't. And he's the one that got, the rough end of the...
He's the one who God sent a demon torment, right?
I agree. So, and then also you have to ask yourself, because for those who take this book literally, you got to ask yourself, why does that number 144,000 keep coming up? And why did God forgive Solomon when he sacrificed the 144,000 animals? Because 4 plus 4 plus 1 equals 9. You're going into your higher level of consciousness. So if you're looking at this book another way, and you understand numerology, as Bill Donahue teaches it, the Bible is just talking about a lot of different hidden messages and signs if you really kind of look at it from a different perspective and not take it literally. So you got to ask yourself those questions there. And what are the consequences for the law don't apply to David, the law don't apply to Solomon, and then also what's dangerous about this is when church leaders and when church administrators and when people in the church do commit these types of sins, we just all we got to do is just point to David. If I'm a preacher or a bishop or something in the church and I sleep with one of the somebody in the congregation, all I got to do is say, what, David wasn't perfect. God, he was a man after God's own heart, but he taking people's wives and having their husbands killed. Like, you're greater than David. You're greater than David. You're greater than Solomon. So look at yourself as that. You ain't never killed nobody, killed her husband. You ain't never slept with nobody's wife. You greater than Moses. You ain't never killed nobody and buried the body. You know what I'm saying? You greater than Jacob. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't never, did the things that Jacob did to his own brother with his mother's help. Like, you're greater than most of these characters in the Bible. Even Christ himself that said that the least of the kingdom of heaven will be greater than John the Baptist. Like, if you look at yourself as being what you're supposed to be, like a Christ. Let's take Christ for instance. I don't mean to jump off top there, Kev, but
no, you're fine.
Like when you stand up in your congregation and everybody look at you like it's something wrong with you, like you the devil. Like who are you in that moment? You are Christ, because everybody thought he was crazy. Everybody thought he was preaching against God. When you stand up against this literature and you start asking the questions that you're supposed to ask and applying common sense and logic, in that moment you become Christ, because you get persecuted, you get kicked out, you all the things that happen to him happen to you at that point. So
absolutely. And no, you're absolutely right. And when I try to tell people that the Bible is more so about an allegory on becoming enlightened, once you become enlightened, you will be hated by the world for saying things that they're not accustomed to hearing. This is exactly what happens when you enlighten. This is what the character Jesus did. He did not agree with God or the Bible's God or the Old Testament's God as we have it. God, the Old Testament God, was saying to stone people. Jesus was saying, if you have sin, cast the first stone, and that it wasn't right to stone people because you weren't innocent yourself from sin, where the Bible's God has been having them stone each other for thousands of years until Jesus came along the scene. So you got to understand that religious people are actually who hated Jesus. In the literature, please understand this didn't happen in real life. Linda said earlier, wow, you guys are bashing God. We're not. We're bashing literature, or questioning literature rather. We believe that no God told anybody to write any of these books. So when we're talking about the literature in this Bible, we're talking about literature that has been passed down via man, compiled and plagiarized and then placed in the book that you now believe is holy. Literally, we understand the origins of the Bible does not trace back to a God. So try your best not to be offended, as we don't see it the same way as you. Just to speak to that, 144,000 are supposed to be the number that is allowed to go to heaven. 144,000 is supposed to be the number of people, of animals that was burned to an offering to God. What is that? Why 144? Well, we know Jesus had 12 disciples. Okay, we also know it's 12 months of the year, 12 hours in the AM and a PM, right? Both together makes 24 hours in a day, but divided by 2 is 12 hours in each one. That's 12 months of the year, 12 zodiacs, 12 disciples, and 144 is 12 multiplied by 12. I wonder why. You guys have to understand this stuff is astronomical. And if it isn't, why are the same numbers repeated all throughout the Bible? It's like you guys really don't want to see it. It's unfair to us that we have to keep, I guess, answering to you guys when you say, are you disrespecting God? It's kind of not our fault that you're not there yet. You know, you have to understand that you are, especially for those of you who are not aware of what we do, because I get new people who watch all the time because somebody may have shared a video and you guys, you know, want to come and listen to what I have to say because, frankly, you don't like what I said and you just want to see what it's about. But for you guys who are new, please understand that the people who mostly listen to this channel, we're past that. And frankly, we know that no God told anyone to write these books. So if you are listening to our content, please understand we are not talking from the perspective of this God is literal, therefore we're asking him questions. We're coming from the perspective that this God is literary, therefore it needs to be questioned. So you guys can see the literary fallacies that were placed on this concept of God that you only know about because of literature. It's really that simple. We're not questioning God, we're questioning the literature's God, which is no God. So just keep that in mind, guys. Okay, yeah, there you go. I think you put that up there, LeSean. 12 zodiac signs, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 disciples, 12 disciples. We have sun discs that are behind the heads of Jesus and literally every other person that was attributed for being a son of God. They have suns. The Statue of Liberty has sun rays coming out of its head. This is our culture. It's Hellenism. It's Greek culture. LeSean is 100% right. It's 12 tribes of Israel. Exactly. And this is exactly where you get a lot of this stuff from, guys. So just please understand that. You know, it's all numerology. It's all zodiac, or astrology, or astronomical. It's all that, to be honest with you. Then, of course, there's things that's added over the course of time to keep you brainwashed as well. But if you guys only really thought about it, this literature was written about the sun and the sky, not an actual person on the earth. So this is our perspective. So I hate to harp on that for so long, but I keep getting comments of people feeling like we're being disrespectful, which is really not the case. And I get that when you're talking against someone's, conceptualized thinking, that they do feel offended too. So let me just say that as well. But I just want people to know that our intentions is not to offend you. You just are offended. Just put it that way. But again, so Ricky, again, we're back with this idea of this God who is taught to us before we're even old enough to read that he knows everything. He's taught to us before we even know how to read that he's all love. And these are two of the concepts that seem to stick. He's eternal. He's always been there, right? He hears everything. He sees everything before it happens, and nothing happens without his plan or without him saying so. This is our concept of God, right? Also, this God who's so infinite and existed long before we ever did needs us somehow for a relationship. Created us somehow because it was lonely and boring, but it doesn't need anything. And we don't question this stuff. And don't you feel like it's unfair to subject people to this type of information and say you can't question it? Is that not child abuse to tell a child that this is the way for thinking and this is our way of thinking, and if you think outside of it, you're burning in a hell? You know, it may not be delivered by way of child abuse, but isn't it?
Yeah,
what would you say?
We actually we refuse to be honest, and sometimes it's hard to be honest. Just like people want to get to the end of the book where Jesus comes back and he saves everyone. Mm-hmm. We don't want to be honest about heinous things, the horrendous things that took place in this book. We say that was then. This is now. It's almost like let's just say the Holocaust, or let's say slavery for America. It's like we want to talk about, and I don't mean to turn this into something else, but it's like we want to talk about how great America is, but we don't want to talk about how it got that way. We want to talk about how great it is, and it's the richest country, and it's the best place to live. But we don't want to talk about how it got that way. So Christianity, how it came into being, how it originated, with the murder and the torture that people had to endure who wouldn't let go of their traditions and how they respected their ancestors to follow this way. We don't want to be honest about that. We just want to say, oh, God is love and Jesus is love, but we don't want to go back and see how this thing was propagated. You know, like I look at it like this: when you have a group of people and you push something on them. What you make it law that if you teach this or read this or say this, you'll be a heresy. I can take your land, I can take your life, I can take whatever I want to take from you. So in order to stay safe, you have to suppress your traditions and your culture. You also have to teach that to your children in order to keep them safe. So what happens is over time, as generations go on, the people who know the lie, they're dead now. So what's been taught to their children, they don't know it's a lie. So it's just business as usual for them. So as time is going on, people who knew that it was a lie, who knew it was fabricated, they're dead. So they didn't teach their children, hey, this is fabricated, it's not the truth, our ancestors really believe this. No, they didn't teach that to their children, because if they did, that could run the risk of them maybe being killed. So they just teach you, hey, believe in Jesus, it's the law, go with it. So as time goes on, now nobody knows it's a lie. You see what I mean? So that's where we at right now, but we don't want to be honest when we look at this book and say, you know what, that's not right.
It ain't right.
That's not right. It's not right for God to kill a whole family for something one man did. That's not right. Because if we did that, we would be wrong.
Yeah.
If I killed the whole man's family for something he did, you'd be like, you know what, dude, that's not right.
That's wrong.
But it's right.
I mean, it's crazy, man, because you literally tell the truth. If a woman's husband cheated on her, and she waited, and he got this woman pregnant with triplets or whatever, right? Or let's just say, for instance, that the man cheated on a woman some years ago. Now, she an old lady now, but she found out this man got a 20-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 14-year-old that he didn't tell her about. He been living a whole separate life. She gets so mad at him, she go chase down all the children and kill them. You see what I'm saying? We would all say that woman is evil. If that man cheated on you and did you wrong, then that's for you to take up with him, leave that relationship, get away from that man. He's a liar, right? But you took it upon yourself to go take the lives of people that didn't have anything to do with him cheating on you, right? They're just merely a product of sex, right? And you wouldn't kill them if they did something wrong. This is honestly how the biblical God works. He promises to curse children that are born outside of wedlock for up to 7 generations. You see what I'm saying? Like if you have a child that is a bastard, for lack of a better word, your child and your mother and your father wasn't married when you were born, the Old Testament God, because you know he got better over the course of time, would have cursed all the grandkids up until the 7th child, the 7th generation, because you had a baby out of wedlock. Understand, if I'm a child who's born out of wedlock, I didn't do that. I was not there. Like, I didn't tell my mom and daddy to have sex. I had nothing to do with that. I'm merely the byproduct. But I would be cursed. Not just that, my child would be cursed. Even if I'm married when they're born. Not just that, their child. And this is the Old Testament God's way of thinking. You know, and that's what blows my mind when people adopt that mindset and say, it must be right. Someone asked her, they said, well, Martin Luther King believed in God, Kevin, or whatever. Are you more down with him? I want to say this. Please understand that regardless of how powerful some of the leaders who came before us were, we do not have to adopt their way of thinking either. Simply because you are a powerful, influential person does not make you right either when it comes to a God. Do not think that you have to subscribe your identity to something because someone you look up to does. This is how we fall into this mess. Question everything, man. You don't have to take on the mental intellect of the person that you call yourself learning from. Like, you don't have to do that. You can have your own mind and still learn from people. This is why we say eat the meat and spit out the bones. I'm not supposed to take your brain and become you. I'm supposed to hear the information that you present, challenge that information in a critical way, and if that information comes back true, align up with that, right? Don't teach different from the information that you have found to be true or fact. Yep. It's really that simple. But because you say some things that I agree with, this does not mean I have to pray to the same dude you pray to. Like, we have to grow out of that.
I can't see any other comments right now, Kevin. But let me just touch on real quick about the whole Martin Luther King situation. Like, you're absolutely right. But the thing is, Martin Luther King, if you read some of his early papers, he actually questioned Christianity, and he actually wrote about how Christianity was influenced by Zoroastrianism and a lot of the other religions, that Mithraism that came before Christianity. He said you cannot not think that these religions who had so many similarities to Christianity didn't influence this belief system. So even he was intelligent enough to know that. So if you're gonna speak on Martin, do a little more research on him, because I think he understood that the way we feel about religion, he used that as, I feel like he used it as a vehicle to spark that movement and continue that movement that had nothing to do with him really believing in it, raised in it. But I think he used it to further the civil rights movement. Also with Malcolm, I love Malcolm. You see him, he's on my wall. But I'm not a Muslim. I can separate him being a Muslim and for him being with Islam from me respecting him as a man and respecting what he stood for. I'm not going to discredit or discount everything that he did just because he was with Islam, okay, because he was a Muslim. And that's the danger of religion. It's divisive. It separates us. So even if, like me, people think if you know me as a person and you didn't never know my religious views, like, you would think I was a pretty cool guy because I'm respectful. I'm trustworthy, like all of these things. And but when you go to my Facebook page, like, oh my God, like, he's saying this, he's saying that, and it would totally change your perspective of what type of person I am because of the way I think and what religious ideology I subscribe to. And that's the danger of religion.
And that's 100% true. I'm glad you mentioned both Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, because the guy actually said Malcolm X, but on the Martin Luther King thing, dude, you're 100% right. I've actually posted his actual papers that he typed in college, saying that he saw that Christianity was plagiarized from other sources. This is Martin Luther King's words. And dude, when I posted it, I mean, it was a regular video post with the link to see the actual paper. So it's still up there somewhere. I mean, man, it shared like crazy, and people were furious because Martin Luther King may have not believed in Jesus. They were furious. Like, there's no way, he spent his whole entire ministry as a Baptist preacher. And I'm like, but you never really heard this man teach about Jesus. Yep. You have to understand this man understood at that time. If I come out and tell these people I don't believe in Jesus, I'm never listen to it. This is what happens even now. You got half the people are not ready to hear this now. You think they was ready to hear this that long ago? So you got to think about this. A man like, even when Martin Luther King said, hey, I do understand this literature isn't the word of God, but I'm still going to use the title as a Baptist preacher because I need to propel my mission in what I'm doing. If I tell these people I'm not a preacher and I don't believe in the God they believe in, they won't march with me, right? You have to. It's almost like I'm going to use the fuel that drives you. If Ricky comes to me and he says, man, I want to make some money, right? That's all I care about. Then I know that if I have money, I can get Ricky services, right? Yep. I'm using something that he loves that fuels him to earn his services. Yep. If he says, hey, man, I don't really want money. I just want to help out with this mission. Then he comes on the show, doesn't charge me a dime, and he gets exactly what he's asking for, right? So I know now I can call on Ricky at any time because Ricky just wants to be on the camera so he can help to give information to the public. This means fuels him. This is the thing with Martin Luther King. If Ricky was a person who was money driven, in no way am I going to get Ricky to get on this camera with me and do it for free without paying him anything, because that doesn't fuel him. If Martin Luther King would have said, y'all just get out and march because we want the world to be better, at that time, these people wouldn't have done it. If you're going to march because you believe Jesus is going to be your authority and go before you and give you the anointing to tackle these devils, right, and everything they stand for, then you're going to have the confidence now to get out there. Because that's how your brain been thinking. You've been taught to believe your whole life that, you know, if Jesus sprinkles some anointing on you, then you can do it, right? Mm-hmm. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, you're dead on, Kevin. I didn't even know you had posted those things. Man, I actually just got on Facebook November of last year, man, so I'm new to all this. So
oh, yeah, man, you should have saw. They went crazy, man. The actual link, people was arguing with it first, and I'm like, the link's right there, and it's long. You can read it verbatim, man. This dude does not believe in living. And people read that and still say, you're reading it wrong. Because it's like, it doesn't matter if you believe in Jesus or not. It doesn't make it true. That's what people don't understand, number one. You see, but it's just hard to deal with it because they think that if someone who they believe was a hero believed in it, then hey, it must be something to it. They don't realize that was a human who grew up in the confines of being taught Christianity and really didn't have any other information outside of that. You see what I'm saying? Like all of us. You know? That's
all it takes. It just takes one person who has some type of respect or who's renowned to say that they believe in something, and then you'll have so many people following and subscribing to it. But that's just conformity. I've never been the type of person to conform, and that's one of the dangers of life is we just doing what everybody else does without really questioning. And that's dangerous. But you just go to the library, and because a lot of the research I did before YouTube was even popular, before the internet was even popular. I actually had to go to the library and dig out these books. And I was on microfiche. People probably don't even know what microfiche is. And I'm on.
There y'all go. All y'all got what y'all know out of books.
Just reading about a lot of the different religions. So that's why I like now that I've picked up
experience of going into the life with free will, baby.
Because all of these things go back to a man. And like I was tired of living. I think you like one of the greatest people to ever live. But I would never, because of my admiration for him, I would never subscribe to Islam because to me it's just another religion. I can separate his religious views from the man, and I can respect what he was trying to do for humanity and not be blinded by his religion.
Of being hurt, but I would not take.
I actually agree.
Those poison.
I agree. And we see this all the time, man. We see who we think are mighty men and women, even of God, do things that are frankly detestable. You know, so we know that people are able to put on a front. We know that people are able to walk out in front of crowds of people and seem like a good person. And then even on the back, behind closed doors, actually literally be raping children and doing all under the belief in your Jesus. So you have to understand that because someone is held in high regard, it doesn't mean you can adopt their way of thinking.
I'm just saying.
You know, you have to understand that it does not speak to them being connected to a higher source and a moral source simply because they're able to put on a show in front of you personally. Like again, we know that preachers all the time, you know, get caught molesting children. Now, I'm not saying this to say that all ministers do it and no people who don't subscribe to religion don't do it. But it is a problem, right, for a person to say that they represent Jesus to be doing it. Let's just be honest. To us, we understand rape is rape. So it's not more evil for a Christian to rape a child than an atheist. It's rape. It's evil the same. But to a God, on a moral standpoint, you stand in position to say you're chosen by a God, which therefore gives you the ability to have access to children, and parents trust to have access to their child, and now you're raping children. This does make it worse, right? Because they presented themselves now as a sheep, but in fact was a wolf, right? Versus a pedophile who's just sneaking around. You bring your children to this man, and he touches your children. And it's your fault because you overlook it because he's supposed to be anointed. And these things are really horrible to think that a all-knowing God would even allow these type things to go on. Now, Now, you look at rape and all these things, you say, well, this is based on free will. We're talking about priests and preachers, though. And I don't know if God would know what it would do to his religion or the belief in him for his actual followers to be raping children, right? He would know that this would be detrimental to the belief that because he's allowing his own prophets and preachers to do this, right? I mean, and it's just crazy to think this. So again, when you look at the literature that we have and you see this stuff coming by way of the Vatican suppressing so many rapes, we got Jehovah's Witnesses who suppress Christianity suppress. It's like I don't know of any like non-believing groups who suppress rape and evil things as much as religion does, simply because they don't want their religion to look bad. So other people who do horrible things get to walk away because the religion is to be protected. So now they get to rape children and get a slap on the wrist, where normally this would be a problem. Josh had showed me a video a while back, and I'll try to find it, guys, and send y'all a link or something or share it. But this woman had been raped by this preacher, and she was telling him that she was going to expose him because it had been years and years ago, and she left the church but just never had the heart to tell on him. So she writes him letters and emails him and tells him, hey, I'm going to come clean with this. And so now he wants to do a video and stand up in front of his church and admit it before she does, right? And what he does is he offers an apology and says, I know you were underage at the time, and I had a real problem, but God has forgiven me, and I'm hoping you will too. And he actually got like a standing ovation from his church, confessing that he raped a girl, but saying, I was wrong for it, and God has forgiven me, and I hope you will too. But he only did it because she already let him know she was going to come out with it. And he got a standing ovation at his church for confessing the rape. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, in no other atmosphere would this dude had got a standing ovation. Or even a congratulatory hand clap. It's just amazing to me.
You know what? You know what else, Kev? It's like this. Isn't it funny? Like we should just acknowledge the fact that, isn't it funny that no one's getting punished for anything that they're doing? Like, isn't it also funny that you can't verify when God does or does not do something for you? But when somebody does something so awful, they don't even get punished. Sometimes, just whatever happens, maybe people say it's karma or whatever, but like, there's no instant like punishment, or just like it was in the Bible. That's why we know these things are not true. Like, we are in a technological age, okay? But this intelligent, all-knowing God gives us a book that can be altered. Now, if the Bible, if you can dump it in water and it didn't get wet, or if you can set it on fire and it didn't burn, then I will believe that it's the Word of God. But if it
and no matter what language you speak, if you can read it and it automatically just can be translated to you, I would believe it was God. Yep. No matter what language, because if it's God, you're not going to limit someone from reading your word because they have a language barrier, right? That would be stupid. Yep. Thanks a lot.
Everyone is getting proof in the Bible. Everyone. If you look at all these situations in the book of Acts, people are getting raised from the dead. People are getting healed. Snakes biting people, they're not dropping dead. Like, all of these things that you can see and verify with your own eyes. Like you pointed out one time, you was talking about Gideon. Gideon specifically asked God for something to prove to him what he was saying was legitimate. But we can't get any proof? Like, how is that fair? How's your God not a respecter of persons if he proves something to one person, but he just say, you know what, you got to read it in this book that's so ambiguous that it spawns 4,000 different religions and tens of thousands denominations, and you're not supposed to be confused, and he can't understand if you don't believe in it. Like, if you do die and you do get judged and there is a judgment, you gonna beat the case. So ain't even no point in you even doing anything, because you gonna beat the case.
Absolutely.
God gonna judge me, dude. He just gonna let me in, because in the first minute he gonna be like, Rick, go on in, man. Go on in, bro. Like, he just gonna let me in. I'm gonna be like, yeah. You gonna beat the case. I don't even have to prepare for it, Kev. I don't have to prepare for it. I don't have to study. When you have an attorney and he about to present you a case, he got to make sure all his facts and everything together. I'm gonna be like, you ready?
Yep.
You ready?
Are you ready? Are you ready?
And then I'm gonna beat the case, and it's just
easy.
It's gonna be an easy case to beat, man. Like you can't show someone something and not show everyone and say that that's fair when there's people manipulating and deceiving. And like you say, the people that we supposed to look up to and follow, they not doing what's right. They're taking their money, and this all-knowing, all-benevolent God is supposed to be like, you didn't believe, so I'm gonna punish you. You don't understand how we didn't believe? Come on, man.
Right, you're going to blame me for not believing when you have the very people who you chose personally to anoint and put in your position to talk to you and convey that message to us. You're going to use con artists and thieves who will trick us into giving 10% of our money, knowing your literature don't say it. Right? You're going to do that. You're going to have people believe that if I give money, it'll be given back, when frankly you never said that. Right? And now I'm going to be stressed thinking that you don't care about me because I give my money and I'm not saying it in return. When you're not going to tell me, even though you got a mouth and you can speak to anybody, I'm just going to be a victim of my own manipulation and ignorance, and you're not going to tell me that I'm wrong. And that's what's crazy, to think that there are people in other places on the planet who pray to different gods, and Jesus hasn't told them that he was really God. There are people on the earth that pray to different gods, and Krishna has not told everyone secretly that he is the one that's God. Yet there are billions of Hindus who believe in this dude and that he's coming back, but he never told nobody else to believe in it. And these gods are simply demographic. If you've never heard of them, you don't know who they are. Not one single god has spoke to somebody in another country somewhere way outside the geographical area. Somebody say, I heard of Jesus and angels in the sky, and a person having a Lamb's book of life. Even that's crazy. An all-knowing God would have your name written in a book, like he knows everything. Why the semantics? And why is it called the Lamb's Book of Life? We already talked about the sun goes down in Aries during the winter solstice or the vernal equinox under Aries, which is the precious Lamb of God. And now this is the Lamb's Book of Life that you expect to see your name in. And all-knowing God will have someone keep tabs on every person that gets saved via a name in a book, another book. So now there's a heaven book. So how do we know that can't be altered? So how do we know someone can't just write your name in there and just let people in on the flip side? How do we know someone's not going to let you in because they're mad? How do you know that some angel in heaven ain't going to get mad at God and try to deceive angels and get cast down again and there'll be another Satan? How do you know these things? Because we live by this standpoint that these things can only happen once. Satan supposedly wanted the stars to be where gods were. Wanted them to be like. It's so evil that Satan got cast out of heaven because he wanted to be like God. And it's just funny that we look at that like that's evil, when really, you can't really find Satan being evil. Right? Really, what makes him evil? What actually makes this man evil? Wanting to be like God? What is it? Because when you really look at evil, the odds are not in the biblical God's favor when you're stacking up and you're keeping a tally on who is more evil, right? You just can't get any worse than the biblical God. Number one, he created it. So he would have to win the competition because evil wouldn't exist had he not created it. And then people say, well, he created it just to give you free will. So in order for you to make decisions on your own, evil must exist. This is your idea that in order to make your own decisions, murder and rape must also be real. Like, really, what? Like, in order for me to make my own decisions, murder has to be real. Do you not know there are probably some evil things that we don't know about yet that people ain't doing? Like, there's probably some really evil things. And if once this evil thing happens, we're going to say, well, God, God allows that to happen so you can have free will. Right? So Hitler killed all these Jews because God wants you to know you can have free will. Like, this is the idea of people. Honestly, the only reason we have evil is so you could have a choice to commit evil. Guys, we're going to go for 5 more minutes and then we're going to wrap it up. So if you guys have any questions or whatever, please post them.
Where do you think your thoughts come from? Where do you think
free will if you're going to get punished for using
ambitions come from? Where do you think your peace of mind
comes from?
Where do you think
church does to us? And sometimes we can just leave it alone. We can say, well, what good is it? Why, why we got to speak up against it? Why we have to be against the church? It's ironic to me that the important things that this book says that the church should do, they don't do it. When it says that the people in the Bible over in the book of Acts when it said they had all things in common and no one lacked, and they didn't lack anything, and they shared everything, they shared the resources. The church don't do that. They keep that money in that account, and they use it however they want to use it. When the church says you need to have faith, they don't even have faith in you. Because if you needed help and they needed to help you, the church uses common sense with you, but they don't want you to use common sense. When you lose your job and when you need some money, they ask for the bill. They say, okay, give us the statement. They don't even put the money in your hand. They write it out to the company of where they're going to pay it to. So they use. Why do they do that? Because that's common sense. Because they
don't trust you. They don't trust you. The very person who been giving them money, they don't trust.
They'll be out of business. So they ask you to trust in God and trust in this, and then they tell you to wait on God, but they don't wait on God. They wait on the amount of time it take you to pull out your wallet and take your money out. That's the only waiting on God that they're gonna do. When the church needs something, say, hey, let's wait on God and see if God will provide. Nope, you're gonna provide it because they're gonna ask you for the money. Yep. So the whole thing is, man, like this thing is dangerous to us because in our community we need the unity the most. You know, if the church had a daycare center that was getting all of our kids ready for school and they was homeschooling kids and pushing them through this rigorous education process to where you can graduate before you're 14, because the school system's crap. We all know that. You can teach a year. You can teach what they teach you in school. You could teach 3 grade levels in like 1 year. I know I could, you know, if I homeschool my kids. So where is these resources that the church could be given? Everybody in the church should have a life insurance policy, Kev. And the church should pay for it. And so when you die, they ain't got to have a car wash for your funeral. Like, you can set up something with the church and say, look, I'm going to write out a $100,000 life insurance policy on you. You give the church a percentage when you die. The rest goes to your family. That's a way to build wealth. That everybody in the church is going to pay you pay the little $30 a month life insurance. The church does with the money that you give to them. And that's a way to build wealth. It gives you some money, gives your family some money when you pass away. It gives the church a little bit of money when you pass away. That's a simple concept, man. You know, where's this money that's sitting in this account? Are we getting any investment income? Or what's the best way for the church to operate, as a nonprofit or as a legitimate business? What tax? You see what I mean? So, like, all of these things we should be able to get from the church. And if we can't, then it's detrimental to us, man. It's detrimental to our community. We're not giving our people just like Callie said earlier today, we're not giving our people no political education. We're not giving them, when these politicians come to the church, they just getting your vote. They're not doing anything for the community. Most of them, I'm not saying all, but most of them are not. We're not holding them accountable. But these are your church parishioners and church administrators who are in cahoots with the politicians. They sitting on their hands. So it's like we got to hold some of these people accountable. When a rapper comes to a city and he got to check in and he got to pay money to the gangsters in the city for him to perform there, some of these churches shouldn't be. I'm not telling anybody to do anything against the law, but some of these churches shouldn't even be able to operate in some of these communities unless they're willing to open up their books and say, what are y'all doing with our money? Because the money is theirs. If you want to talk about tithes and offerings, the tithe was the people's. That money is the community's money. It's Absolutely. Not the church's money. So if they can't open up the books and say we spent X amount of dollars on this, and this, then they shouldn't be allowed to operate in the community, man. That's how I feel. I'm sorry.
No, honestly, I appreciate the passion and the honesty, because that's a 100% fact. They should not be allowed to operate in the community. The sheer fact is most of these churches take that deposit directly to the bank. I know an officer who actually signals for the sheep to go into church every single Sunday, and then actually waits for them to take the deposit to the bank every single Sunday. So I wish all believers would consider, what if everyone that you know took 10% of their earnings to the bank every single Sunday and just walked away and didn't expect anything in return? And please tell me how that would help the economy of your city alone, your county, your street, or anything, your people, anything. This is exactly what you're doing. You are giving your money directly to the church, who's directly giving that money to the bank anyway. So you probably should stop, and you probably should look for better places to put your money. You know, honestly, it's not working for you. And honestly, the people who are standing in the way of you being blessed, literally blessed in terms of saving your own money, creating a life for yourself, all these preacher men, and y'all just don't get that. If you took your money to the bank and you called the bank and your money wasn't there, 10% of your earnings now. So if you make $700 a week and you gave them $70 and you checked your bank account and that money was not in there, y'all would be tore up, and you know you would. But you'll give your money to a preacher every day who says that money is for God. But why would God need your money? And if you read the Bible yourself, it never asks you for money, yet you still continue to do it. And people like us should be able to walk in these community churches, because the churches are for everyone. They're community churches, right? You should be able to walk in there and confront these pastors and say, what are you doing with our community's money? Look at the community. You have a large church which has a lot of members, so I know you bring in money. I just saw you collect tithe. What are you going to do with this money? Because the Bible does say that it's for the fatherless and the widows, not to be hoarded by and taken to the bank and used on church bills and other church things. You know, that, and even here's the crazy thing about it. Paul even spoke to that, or who's the writings that's attributed to Paul even mention this. He says that you are to take up an agreement with people. Tell them what the church bills are. Tell them what you need from people. And then they make a commitment to give this. But you don't tell them that it's tithe, right? You don't tell them that. And this was literally the person attributed to Paul, teaching that there's no such thing as tithe. And it's just funny how if you ask a preacher, why do you teach tithe? They give you a bunch of bogus reasons that when you read the Bible yourself, you realize that it isn't. So before we close, I'm going to give you guys a couple of reasons. Because what Ricky just said is important. A lot of you guys are getting used for your money. When you go and you ask your pastor, why do you collect the tithe? And they tell you about the Melchizedek, right? And Abraham, or the Melchizedek is really what it means. It means the high priest. So when Abraham tithes to the Melchizedek, or who you call Melchizedek, I think that's the name of a person. It's a title. The Melchizedek is the high priest again. Abraham won money in war, and off the spoils of war, he gave 10% of what he collected via war, okay? And he never tithed again before or after that. Abraham was rich. He never tithed again before or after that. The word tithe does not mean give your money every week. It means 10%. It means tenth. Abraham tithed because he gave 10% of what he had to the high priest. That's literally it. Nowhere else do you see anyone else tithing money. Abraham wasn't tithing off what he earned. He was tithing off what he stole. So if anyone should be tithing, I guess thieves should, right? Which is crazy. So when you go from that standpoint, they'll say, well, if not the Melchizedek, right? God did say ask for 10%. He's talking about the 10th animal that passed through your farm, the 10th animal for food, the 10th wheat for or meat in the storehouse. It never asks you. So the literature says, do not change anything in the Bible or take away from it. If you consider God being all-knowing, if God once said that tithe was food, why do you think you know more than who you believe is God and can then make food money? Why do you believe that, preachers? Because preachers say, well, times have changed. Well, I thought God doesn't change. And you are changing the literature of who you believe is God, because tithe was never money. In fact, if you had money, you were penalized for it. So if you live too far away to tithe and you try to tithe money, they actually fine you for giving money because there was nothing they could do with it. It was simply to have bread in a storehouse. That's what a lot of people don't understand. And if you live too far to be able to get your food to the storehouse, the Bible says for you to sell that food and take the money and buy it on a strong drink, have a party with it, enjoy yourself and have fun. It don't say nothing about giving it to the church. It says invite the poor to have the party with you. So directly give it to the poor, so to speak. But it never says, send it to the church in an envelope. And we have been taught this. So again, guys, the time for this is over. We are fed up, and we're no longer going to continue to bite our tongues just so a lot of believers can be comfortable. You have to understand that times are changing. We are living in the world, in the age of information. Myself, I'm 35 years old, and when I was coming up, I didn't have access to the internet. So I know a lot of the people who came before me didn't. We were forced to read the literature that we were given, unfortunately. And I didn't have a Quran, in my possession. I had a Bible. Someone asked me earlier, Kevin, I love what you say. I love your thoughts, but why do you only talk about Christianity? You know, it's what I know. But I do talk about other religions by way of God never wrote a book, so there's no reason to believe in any religion as God never wrote a book or told anybody to write a book, whatever God you think it is. So when I talk about Christianity a lot because I understand Christianity. It's what I taught for so long. So just for people who ask that question. But I want to finish my thought here. For those of us who are now understanding that there's more information than we knew was out there, you cannot try to hold us back by keep on spewing fear out of us. You know, it's written that many will fall out, or many will turn away from God, or if you know, of course, the great fall away is going to come, or you were never with us because you went out from among us, or whatever, or you're going to burn in hell. These things are not going to work because you're talking to people who literally understand the origins of your literature and know a God didn't say it. You're wasting your time. So I'm letting you know you're wasting your time by quoting scriptures to someone who completely understands the origins of your beliefs. Like we're not convinced whatsoever. And for those of you who were in this belief and these type of threats still bother you, please understand it's only because your mind, it just takes a while to evolve and develop. You may have not long been left the religion, so when you start hearing these type of threats at you, they do make you feel fear because really they always have, and the brain just learns that way. Just understand, your fear for what they are saying does not make it true. Just if you fear hell, it also doesn't make it true. I asked a guy a question the other day, does not believing in gravity help you float? And he said no. I said, well, all right. Right? Your belief in something does not change the facts about anything. Right? I want to say this, guys, because I promised you guys about 5 more minutes, so I'm going to give Ricky the floor for a second, give him some closing words, and tell you guys where to find him and some of his, of course, his amazing videos that he's already starting to put out. They are well informative. He really goes into it, guys, and he really makes you think. So I brought him onto the show for that reason. When I first saw one of his videos, the first thing I did was just share it to my page because I was like, this stuff needs to be heard. So with no further ado, Rick, if you want to, say some closing words and tell people where to find you.
Yes, sir. First, I just want to thank you for having me on, Evan. Josh, man, I've been watching y'all for a long time. Coach, Jamar, everybody. So I admire the work that you guys are doing. Man, it's an honor for me to just sit and talk with the guys, man, because I believe that's what we all are, because anytime I need people who subscribe to God, and they know that I don't believe anymore, but they call me for money. They call me for, for the borrowers. They need the holders or something. They call me because the only God that we need is each other. You know what I mean? So we start treating each other like how we're supposed to treat each other. We can fix this world, man, and it can be whatever we need it to be. But you can find most of my videos. I got a channel on YouTube. It's called, Begging for Change. So it's begging, the number 4. Change. I'm on YouTube there, and of course you can go to my Facebook page. It's Ricky Swink, last name SWINK. But I just want to thank you for having me on. But I just want to leave you with this: when the church becomes everything that we need it to be, we need to start saving our people now and not try to save them in an afterlife that nobody knows about. So it just makes more sense for us to start having our salvation right now and learning the things that we need to learn, getting having access to the services that we need. And I also apologize for my voice. I have a loud voice anyway. I talk loud, and people probably like, man, you screaming, you yelling. You know what I mean? So when I'm loud, it just comes out. I just turn into a whole other person, man. So I'm sorry. So if the volume was too loud, please, I apologize for that. But, when I'm talking about something that I love my people, man. I love people, period. Not just black people, but I love everybody. And this religion, it's just dangerous, man. It's just dividing us. And even in the Bible, Paul, the Paul character, he says, believe the same thing so there'll be no divisions among us. And it's like, if you look at all the churches, they're not doing what the Bible even says to do. So what good is it if we're not going to follow it? So that's all I have.
I like that. What good is it if you're not going to follow it? And one of the things that you said about, us being there for each other, one of the things I always say, man, is we can be the answer to each other's prayers. You know what I mean? So if we drop the pride and lose all of that, and we begin to call on each other for the needs and begin to make our needs and visions known to each other, we can see more of our dreams come true than we ever thought could be possible. Did all of that get heard, or did some of it go out? Did all of that get out?
Yeah, I heard everything.
Okay, fantastic. Someone says, Ricky, you're a smart dude. Keep up the good work. I agree. Keep up the good work, Ricky, man. And everything that you're doing, you know definitely we'll have you on again.
Love and support, man. I love y'all. This is the only reason why I do it. For a long time, I just thought no one ever cared about what I had to say. But people care. So if you are one that has the information and you have the knowledge and you have the charisma and people listen to you, say what needs to be said, because sometimes that's the only way that they're going to hear it. If they don't hear from somebody else, they may hear from you. So things that I'm saying, there's a lot of other people saying it, but they might not listen to that other person. They may only receive it from you or listen when it comes from you. You might articulate it a certain way that they get it hearing it from you. So don't ever think that you don't have anything to say and that you can't contribute. So everybody has something to contribute.
Absolutely. So, and guys, keep out just sponsors for more shirts. We have one Be the Evolution shirt which just popped up, and another shirt is I Love Life. They are both amazing shirts. Please, guys, go support our movement so we can have some fun and do some amazing things to get more information out there. The shirts are cool, but of course, guys, you wearing that shirt shows that you supported something that is really going to be beneficial to our world and our minds. So it's not some church. This is, you know who you're giving the funds to. We're going to be here to show you exactly what we do with them, too. So, guys, go get a Be the Evolution shirt. Get an I Love Life shirt. Please do. Next week, I'm going to be giving away a free shirt to one of the donators. So and we're going to try to start doing that a little more, giving you guys something in return for what you guys do. It'll be like a raffle. And we'll go off the donators, and we're going to give you guys a free shirt next week. See how that works out for you guys. So, again, thank you guys for your time. Please stay tuned for everything else that we're doing. I will be getting back with you guys on the information for the Young Pharaoh event and also the Lorenzo event myself. So I will be getting that information back to you guys really, really soon. And also, someone says, Kevin, why don't you debate someone named Cornelius? I actually do not debate. I do have dialogues, though. What you guys witnessed between myself and that pastor was a friend of mine, Callie, or Tacoma, as a lot of you guys know him, was confessing to his father that he no longer was a victim to religion and that he was, in fact, walking away. And he needed someone who could help him break this information to his father. And the father wanted to do it online. And so this is what you guys witnessed, not me picking on a pastor or a bishop. It was merely a dialogue. And I am willing to dialogue with anyone, but I do not debate. I see no point in it. I've never seen a person come to the other side of the person who was debating the alternative ever in my life. If you win the debate, I'm not going to believe in your God. And if I win the debate, you're not going to drop a belief in your God. So why call it a debate? Have a dialogue. That's the best way to handle it. Keep it simple. Keep it pushing. All right. So, guys, that being said, be the evolution and be the change that you want to see. Love and peace to everybody. And thank you very much again, Ricky.
All right. Thank you, bro.
All right. Peace, family.
All right, it looks like we are live. Guys, I can't see you yet, but if you can see me, just hang on 1 second and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Okay, let's see here. All right, so I see you guys. Just allow me to share this video a couple times. Just want to put it on my personal page and my group page. We'll be ready to rock and roll, guys. Hope everybody's doing well. Today we're talking about Noah's Ark and the plagiarized foolishness, all right? right, welcome in, guys. Today we're going to go into Noah's Ark and plagiarism. A lot of people believe that Noah's Ark actually happened. We have many people who actually subscribe to this story. They believe it actually happened. Okay, but a lot of them don't know where this story actually comes from. A lot of them do. And even so, they still believe that it actually wasn't plagiarized. They believe that it literally stands on its own, okay? That it is its own independent literature, not stemming from anything, with no one else's past ideas, no rewrites, no edits, no mix-ups, no nothing, no spin-offs, no nothing. Completely original story. And this is what they believe. Now, we know that plagiarism is all over the Bible. We know that Hebrew did a lot of the things Jesus did, right? So forth and so on. But a lot of people do not know, like I said, about Noah's Ark. So we're going to get into that today. First off, I want to remind everyone about the event that comes up this month on the 25th. And I want to pop that up here real quick so you guys can see it. For those who aren't familiar, for those who are, this will be a friendly reminder that this date is coming up and we're going to rock the house. I got so much planned for you guys. We're going to have a good time. So make sure you guys come out and enjoy and bring some notebooks, take some notes, because I'm going to give you guys enough information that when you go home, none of these religious people will be able to try to make you feel bad for not supporting their beliefs or not staying in your belief, for that matter. You'll have all the information that you need to completely explain why you no longer support that religion. For a lot of you guys who still don't really know how to explain it that well, or even know how to answer some of the questions that some of these apologists like to throw at you. So we'll handle a lot of that. With that being said, let me read some comments and say hey to some people, and we'll get this show going, okay? Let's see here. Joshua Sneed, what's going on? Coach Gladsby, what's up? Candy Amo, what's going on? Peace. Who knew? Let's see here. The master student, what's going on with you? And he said all of his foolishness. Let's see here. Lane Girl said fast start. Yeah, man, we're trying to get it together. We're trying to get the show more sharp for you guys, really. So we were really lax in the beginning because it's really just an open dialogue, but we do know a lot of people want to see the show be a lot cleaner. We're not going to be lasting that long anymore either. I don't know exactly how long the show will go on tonight, guys. I am not feeling well. I actually been sick for a little while now, so we're going to make it through it, though. What's up, Razor? I see you, brother. Willie, peace to you. Peace, Philip. Hello, Lil Jim. Kaloni, I see you. What's up? Brian Caldwell, I see you. Doc, I see you. Amsterdam in the building. Deshaun said, what do you take to be true? Well, truth is things that line up with history. And again, not necessarily. You know, truth can be something that resonates with you personally. What we're more interested in is proving facts, things that can't be manipulated, and they're not based on somebody else's understanding. A simple fact, right? That's all we're looking for. DeMarco said you need to read the Epic of Gilgamesh. Okay, we're going to actually show you a lot of it tonight, so we'll at least show you enough to where you would know, or at least let you see if you believe it was plagiarized from Noah's Ark, or Noah's Ark was plagiarized from it. Hello, Ladone. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Karen. Y'all so nice. Thank you. Annie said she likes my head wrap. I'm trying a little turban thing. This is not Louis Vuitton. If anybody going to accuse me for having expensive fabrics, this is just some cloth somebody gave me a while back. So, all right, get it out of your head. I'm not into brands at all. What's up, King? I see you, Eric. Renee, how you doing? Welcome in. All right, guys, so let's get started. We're about to go into this, and we are going to get this show ready, and then Jamal will be on shortly, Lorenzo will be on shortly, and we're going to have some dialogues. First, I'm going to, give you guys some, my take on the Epic of Gilgamesh. After that, we're going to discuss some of the inconsistencies in this story of the Noah's Ark and go from there. All right? See, somebody says you're wearing Louis Vuitton with question marks. I already said I was, and it's just a cheap cloth, guys. I knew somebody would say it, unless he's joking, but I assume someone would. All right, so Josh, if you're there, we're going to try to bring up that video. Ebony, I see you on Facebook. Alexis, I see you. Hello. Yolanda, hello. Is that a Burberry head wrap? LOL. LaShawn, I see you watching, man. All right, cool. All right, guys, so let's talk a little bit about Noah's Ark and the inconsistencies in them, okay? All right. I'm ready when you are, sir. All right, so we know that we are people of storytelling, okay? We tell stories that are new, some that are old, some rewritten, some edited, for whatever purpose to suit our need to prove a point, imagination, or whatever. We believe a lot of them are new, but they're really not most of the time. And one of the worst ones for that is Star Wars.
Everything in our society, or at least the way I see it, was shaped by that movie, the Star Wars generation. And it is, sense, our religious culture. You got a crowd of people, they're congregating, they're sharing their experience for the most part, they're sharing their knowledge, and really geeky, trivial knowledge and stuff.
I like the fact that it's quasi-religious and spiritual, but in a very sort of fashionable and easy to understand way. It means a lot to me.
Now, of course, people believe that Star Wars is completely original, but I'm just going to show you guys a little bit that Star Wars is actually not original. It actually has a lot of different ideas from other things that were before, that predated, of course, and it was used to put together to create what we call Star Wars today. And, of course, Star Wars has millions and millions of fans. People dress up and go to these events and really actually feel connected with these characters. Again, people look at it as something that's spiritual, something that they can really, really relate to. They love it just as much as religion, but let's not get it twisted. It's not a religion. So that brings us to Noah's Ark. How original can that be? Because we know that all over the world we have flood stories, but people seem to think that this one is the real one. But why? When all of these places have flood stories, why would this one be the real one? Okay, so Noah's Ark, of course, is about a man named Noah who was said to be perfect in his generations, and God comes to Noah, okay, and tells him that he's going to destroy the whole planet and everything in it except for him, his family, and two of each unclean animal. People say two of each animal, but it's two of each unclean animal and 7 of each clean animal. I'll explain why shortly. But he's going to destroy the world because the world is sinning and there are giants roaming the world. And, of course, Noah sends out a dove at the end, and it brings back a olive branch, which lets him know that it's done. Now, Genesis has 2 actual spots of Noah's Ark, and they all have different actual, let me pause it for a second. Okay, cool. The 2 stories, actually Noah's Ark is twice in Genesis, guys, and I got here listed some of the things that are different. How many birds were sent, the amount of animals on the boat is actually different, and how long the flood lasted is actually different in the 2 stories in Genesis. So they're not even exact, and I don't even know why they couldn't do them exact, but they should have probably, but they didn't, and that presents a big problem anyway. Now you see here on the screen it's showing a real problem of the Noah belief that all these animals can fit on a ship, as you need more space to house and hold even less animals, right? But people believe that somehow God he works in mysterious ways, so they just forget about all of the math and the logic associated that you could apply to Noah's Ark and just completely annihilate it. They just believe that somehow because God sprinkled magic on it, all this was possible. But right now we're not going to go into the math or any of that. We're just simply going to talk about is it plagiarized? So let me hit play. All right, so a man named Harmouz Rassam, he was an Iraqi Christian. Assyriology, guys, it started in the 1800s. It's where they dig up graves and or go and find information just like this, okay? They go to Egypt and they find different information like this in different places, of course. But they found 12 clay tablets that was actually written in cuneiform. Cuneiform would be the oldest form of writing, period. Now, they couldn't actually read cuneiform or break it down back then, so it took them about 10 years, and then they were able to break it down. And when they did, it was the Epic of Gilgamesh. Okay, so the Epic of Gilgamesh seemed to model the Bible, I mean, almost perfectly. Okay, so it came from the 7th century BC, of course, and there's also been multiple partials found in different areas, just so you know. This isn't coming from one place where somebody tried to create something to ruin the Bible. This is found all over the place. But anyway, Gilgamesh seeks a man named Utnapishtim after his friend Unkito dies. Okay, and Utnapishtim is a man who actually is Noah in this story, so to speak. So Utnapishtim builds an ark and is immortal. Okay, Utnapishtim builds an ark and is immortalized because of doing it. Okay, but here's the story of Gilgamesh, guys, and you tell me what you think. Now listen to it closely and just see if you hear bits and pieces of Noah's ark. You may not. You may, but let's see.
Utnapishtim spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, I will reveal to you, Gilgamesh, the thing that is hidden. A secret of the gods I will tell you. trUtH, the city that you surely know situated on the banks of the Euphrates, that city was very old, and there were gods inside it. The hearts of the great gods moved them to inflict the flood. Ea, the clever god, was under oath with them, but he repeated their talk to me. Oh, man of trUtH, tear down the house and build a boat. Abandon wealth and seek living beings. Spurn possessions and keep alive living beings. Make all living beings go up into the boat which you are to build. Its dimensions must measure equal to each other. Its length must correspond to its width. Roof it over like the Absu. The boat was finished by sunset. The launching was very difficult. I had all my kith and kin go up into the boat. All the beasts and animals of the field and the craftsmen I had go up. The weather was frightful to behold. I went into the boat and sealed the entry. There arose from the horizon a black cloud, and turned to blackness all that had been light. The land shattered like a pot. All day long the south wind blew, blowing fast, submerging the mountain in water, overwhelming the people like an attack. No one could see his fellow. They could not recognize each other in the torrent. The gods were frightened by the flood. 6 days and 7 nights came the wind and flood, the storm flattening the land. When the 7th day arrived, the sea calmed. Quiet had set in. I sent forth the dove and released it. The dove went off, but came back to me. I sent forth the swallow and released it. The swallow went off, but came back to me. I sent forth a raven and released it. The raven went off, but does not circle back to me. Then I sent out everything in all directions and sacrificed a sheep. I offered incense in front of the mountain ziggurat. The gods smelled the sweet savor and collected like flies over the sacrifice.
Wow, so you heard the Epic of Gilgamesh. For those of you who have heard Noah's Ark before, read Noah's Ark, what do you guys believe? What do you guys think? People are saying already, I can see and hear the similarities, all this good stuff already. So let me be, I like to be intellectually fair here, because I'm not going to try to convince you everything is the same. But here's the problem. People say that, of course, Jesus is not plagiarized from Hebrew because everything's not the same. Everything doesn't have to be. I explained this to you guys before, that if you saw a show where people were powering up and hitting Super Saiyan, but their hair wasn't turning gold, you would still know that was plagiarized from Dragon Ball Z. They wouldn't have to have golden hair for it to be, it has to be exactly like it to be plagiarized. If it wasn't like that, people would be stealing almost of everybody's stuff and just leaving 1 or 2 things out. Nothing would be original, guys. So Hebrew is said to not be plagiarized, or Jesus is said to not be plagiarized from Hebrew. A lot of people believe that he wasn't because everything's not the same, of course. But Hebrew actually raised a man from the dead named El Azarus. Jesus raised a man from the dead named Lazarus. Lazarus. Asuria means son. So Lazarus actually means the son, Lasuria. That's what it means, guys. The son was being resurrected. It wasn't a human being at all. It was an allegory. But people like to believe that Lazarus actually existed and was raised from the dead. But again, Horus raised a man from the dead named Lazarus some 4,000 years before Jesus ever did it. He also walked on water. He was also born of a woman who did not have sex to actually have him, right? So his mother wasn't a virgin, but we also understand that virgin doesn't mean a woman who's never had sex, right? It means an unmarried woman. That's what it means. Actually, that word comes from the word Virgo, which is in Latin. If you don't believe me, look up the etymology, which is the origin of words, the etymology of the word virgin, and watch it show up and say Virgo. So yeah, back then, if you had not been married, they called you a Virgo, not a virgin. That's the word they called you. So back to the point, the Bible is not exactly like the Epic of Gilgamesh. They have a different amount of gods. Okay, they do have different boats. They have different birds. When Noah sent out one bird, Gilgamesh sent out a flock of birds, right? The ark of Gilgamesh was more square, where the ark of the Bible was more curved, right, according to the literature. One God, Yahweh, several gods, of course. Gilgamesh. They're both angry, okay? They're both very angry, and they both demand a sacrifice after it's done. So a lot of people think that God tells these people, or the biblical God tells these people to put 2 animals on the ark and 7 clean animals, or 7 pairs. Let me make that straight. 7 pairs. So that means they would have had to put 14 cows on this ark, okay? Because Yahweh wanted them to be sacrificed to him, not so people on the ship who ate food, or ate clean food, so to speak, could have food, but so when the ship settled, they would sacrifice all these animals to Yahweh. This was the purpose of them putting the extra animals on this ship. Okay, so, and of course, Gilgamesh, whenever he kills his animal, he says that the gods hovered over it like flies, right? So both of the gods love sacrifices, and a lot of people don't like to think that about the biblical God, but it's a 100% fact. Christianity is a 100% blood cult, and it's hard for a lot of people to accept that, but the fact is, you guys drink blood at communion. Even though it's symbolic for what? Blood. You believe that you're saved by the what? Blood. You're washed in his what? Blood. Now, the simple fact is, if someone was saying all this stuff to another god, you could clearly see that it was a blood cult. I mean, you wear a sacrifice symbol around your neck, and you say it's to bring him glory, but it's actually what killed him. And the thing about it is, like, the cross isn't even a good symbol. It's just a crucifix. If you think about it, murderers, thieves, and all were put on this cross. In fact, when Jesus was supposedly on this cross, he had a murderer and a thief up there with him, right? So why do you guys wear it like it's some holy symbol and it has power? It can't have power, as it's used mostly for criminals. Now, what we use for criminals today are things like lethal injection. So today, if Jesus was on this earth, he would have been killed by something like lethal injection or an electric chair. The fact is, if that were true, if that happened, would you guys be wearing syringes and electric chairs? Would you? I mean, the logic in wearing a cross really just doesn't make sense. And a lot of people would actually have a lot more money in their pocket if they weren't buying these crosses and all this gold and all this crazy stuff. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of people who don't even really subscribe to the religion, or they don't even go to church or live like they go to church, they'll still have a big gold cross on their neck that they spent like probably a couple $1,000s on. More than that. Gold is very expensive, guys, and people actually spend a lot of money on it. And if we didn't spend our money on this crazy stuff that's really doesn't have a purpose, except for to shine on your neck and make you feel special or something, we could take this money and put it directly into where we're suffering and build a better world. I mean, the Israelites, they melted their gold to worship a golden calf. I think we can turn in all our gold and flip it and build a better future for us. But I don't know if y'all really want to give up y'all crosses like that. I would ask any ex-religious person who walked away from Christianity, if you have like religious symbols like that for gold, I'd ask you to consider getting rid of that stuff and maybe using the money and helping somebody with it, helping yourself with it if you need to. Just a thought. I'm gonna go in and hit the rest of this video, and after this, we're gonna talk about some of the inconsistencies in it, and then we'll go ahead with and matter of fact, thank you very much, Danella, for your donation, of course. Anybody else who's donating, understand that I am a nonprofit, okay? So any funds that you give goes towards helping the homeless, okay? Everything that I do goes towards helping the homeless. When you guys buy a shirt, goes towards feeding the homeless, okay? My music and all, everything I do is for my nonprofit. I'm trying to change the world, and I know a lot of you are too. So that being said, if you do hear information on this show tonight that helps you, you feel like it helps you in your life, please feel free to donate. That being said, I'm going to play the rest of this video, and then we're going to get to the inconsistencies or just the things that just really don't make sense in the story of Noah's Ark. Thank you very much, Omar. See, I'm trying to get back to that video here.
Press the button.
Was that Lorenzo? Oh, yeah. Lorenzo. What's up, brother?
How you doing, man?
Doing well, man.
How's everybody? Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you, man. Actually, Lorenzo, while we're waiting to pull this video back up, you know, I had saw one of your videos, of course, where you were dropping some bombs and you were talking about Inky and some of those things that stems from this story. I didn't know if you didn't mind going into a little bit of that while we was waiting on this video to come up.
Sure. Not a problem whatsoever. All right. So, of course, what Kevin is talking about is the Sumerian story with the Anunnaki and Inky and Enlil. Just to give those who may not have heard of who these characters are. The Sumerians date back at least 12,000 years ago. Well, somewhere between 8 and 12,000 years ago. So this is prior to any Hebrew, Greek, Roman, all that, right around the same time that the Egyptian society came up. They came out at the same time. And one of the things about the Sumerians is that they don't claim any authorship. They don't claim that they own anything nor created anything. What they claim is that everything that they knew, because they just immediately came into the ability to write and irrigation and all these things, they claim that the gods, the Anunnaki, those from the heavens to earth came, to which they did not worship, that they showed them and taught them everything they knew. So when they told them the story of man and everything that had happened, one of the stories that they tell them is the story of tHE. So how that goes is this. You have a couple of main characters. You got Anu, who is the father. You got Enlil, who is the son who winds up becoming Yahweh or Yah and Jehovah and also Allah. You got Enlil, that guy, and he's like the next to be king. And then you have the son Enki, who is older than Enlil, but he was born from a cohort and not the primary queen, so he can't be king. Enki is the one who comes up with the idea of messing around with man's genome and creating a being and master, like test tube babying a being that can help dig gold and mine gold for the Anunnaki, because they needed to help deflect solar radiation from their atmosphere. So I'm skipping a bunch of stuff to give you background about him, but you get to a point where Enki, he sees Lamech's wife. And when he sees Lamech's wife, their version of Lamech's wife, when he sees Lamech's wife, he says, man, she looked good. She was out bathing, to give you a little idea. She was taking a bath, and he has sex with her. When he has sex with her, who they produce is a son named tHE. tHE is your Noah conversion from the Sumerian to the Hebrew story. tHE was born, and this has nothing to do with race, but he was an albino. So he had like white skin or opaque looking skin, colorful eyes, and blonde hair. When Lamech sees this, he's like, hey, this ain't my child. So he goes to his grandfather, Enoch, and Enoch's like, don't worry about it. I talked to Enki, and Enki's like, that's your son, just raise him up, and he'll be all right. So he's a Nephilim. So effectively he's a Nephilim, because there's a whole nother story that brings the Nephilims in. With the Sumerian. The Sumerian have their own 200 Anunnaki came down to a wedding of Marduk and captured 200 women and made them their wives, and their sons became the Nephilim and all that sort of thing. So tHE is a Nephilim. This is why you have Nephilim after the flood, according to the Sumerian and according to the book of Enoch. So the Zarathustra, he's Enki's son, so he's half Anunnaki. Well, the Enlil finds out that the polar ice shelf is going to slip off, and it's going to be this big cataclysmic thing with storms, and it's going to flood the northern hemisphere of the Earth for the most part, and that Enlil wants all the humans to die. He doesn't like humans. He wants all of them to die. So he sends out a decree and says that, hey, if you're royalty, then you need to be with us on our ships. If you are, high-ranking Anunnaki, go up into the mountains. If you're married to an Anunnaki or you got Anunnaki blood, then you're allowed to live. But everybody else has to die in this flood. This is what Enlil says. This is why Enlil is is Jehovah, Yah, God, whatever the Hebrew story. So at that point, the flood, Enki gets like a little nervous, and so he doesn't want everything to be destroyed because he was the master scientist behind all of this. So he goes to his son Zarathustra and he says, look, and I'm paraphrasing of course, but he's like, look, you're my son. That's why you are how you are and what you are. You're my son. I'm going to show you how to build this boat, and then I'm going to bring to you the seed of everything on the earth, not an actual animal, but the seed of everything. So, which makes more logistical sense, that the seed of every animal, the seed of every plant, the seed, the genetic material to recreate everything that's going to be destroyed, I'm going to bring all that to you. You're going to put that on your boat. Now, this flood is only going to last about 6 days, but you and your family get on the boat and you'll be okay. So they build the boat in the mountains, just like the Hebrew story. He builds the boat, the flood comes, they survive, him and his family. Once they come out of the boat, they don't come out. Once the storm is over, after 6 days, Zarathustra first sends out a raven, and the raven comes back. He sends out another raven, and the raven comes back. Then he sends out a dove, and then the dove doesn't come back, and that's when Zarathustra says, okay, everything is cool. So then they do a sacrifice, right? They do a sacrifice to be thankful that they survived it. When they're doing the sacrifice, somehow Enlil smells the sacrifice and is attracted to the sacrifice. So Enlil comes rolling up like, hey, I thought all the humans were supposed to die, but then Enki is like, no, you said if they half Anunnaki, they could live, and he's my son, so he's half Anunnaki. So Enlil's like, all right, fine. But what happened is that then they said, well, the passing of Nibiru ripped a hole in their ozone again. So we need gold production to come back. So we need people, we need humans again. And then Zarathustra shows Enlil, and Enki gets with him and says, hey, we got the seed of every man. We can reproduce humans again. Plus, according to the Sumerian story, there were humans in the Indus Mountain. There was humans over in the Americas. There was humans all over the place that went up into the mountains with their other Anunnaki counterparts all over the world. So humans didn't die out. The Anunnaki didn't die out. And that's pretty much in a nutshell that story, the Zarathustra story. But the similarities are still there. Absolutely. Those similarities of the seed of every animal, of repopulating the earth, of
sending a raven, then a dove. A difference is 6 days to 40 days. That's a difference. But
yeah, 6 days. Which, when we get into the actual scientific aspects, we know that there's no way 40 days of a flood and all that stuff could work. But we'll get into that whenever you're ready. But
absolutely.
Yeah, so those stories are exactly, and you gotta understand the Sumerian story, the story of Zarathustra was known before Noah was known. That Abraham, being a Sumerian himself, would have known this story of Zarathustra, right? So they would have passed that story down. So by the time you get to Moses and the writing of Genesis, of whoever wrote Genesis, according to the book, then you still retell that story, but they're retelling it. The story's already thousands of years old, and now you're trying to retell this story, right? So of course you're ad-libbing and you're making your own group, you're Hebrew washing it, making it work for you.
Hebrew washing. Right? We need to run with that. Create a new word, Hebrew washing. because they love to take something and act like it's theirs. Like they think they conquered the Canaanites. I think they conquered the Amorites, the Perizzites, all these people. They ain't conquered nobody. I had a guy send me the elephantine. I told you about this, the elephantine papyri. So I put a challenge out to prove that, or to find me an older writing or older literature than the Codex Sinaiticus, an older complete codex of Deuteronomy or anything for that matter than the Codex Sinaiticus. God comes back and brings me the elephantine papyri. This crap say that God had a wife, that Yahweh had a wife, Yahu. You see what I'm saying? And it's just funny to me that and several gods. So guys, in case you don't know, monotheistic is when there's multiple gods. This is Zoroaster. This is I can't even pronounce it right now. But tHE. This is the Epic of Gilgamesh. When you see multiple gods, or Hinduism for that matter, that's called monotheism, right? And then you have polytheism. And am I saying that wrong right now? Having brain farts.
No.
Okay, polytheism is one God. So when you take the Bible, it was monotheistic, because here's what you have. You have all of these writings, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, okay, Zoroaster, tHE. You have these writings, and then you have other people taking these stories, repeating them, editing them, twisting them up. And they're not doing this to deceive people. They're just writing stories, guys, trying to be creative. They had no clue that people would come and get all their writings and attribute them to a man named Moses and put them in a Bible and sell them to y'all and convince y'all that this crap really happened. They would all be completely like turning over in their grave if they knew y'all believed in this stuff. So that's what I'm trying to get you guys to really just think hard about this. But that being said, we're going to get into the inconsistencies in it, but I'm going to hit play on this video for 1 second.
And you know that the Hindus have a flood story that's pretty much very similar as well, of Manu and his wife going into a boat and having all the animals and everything as well.
Right. I mean, the Hindus' God is coming back one day to get them, just like Jesus is coming back for Christians, you know.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
All right, guys, so let me just go through the rest of this, and then we're going to be ready to rock. All right, so we talked about the inconsistencies. Yeah, okay, thank you, Josh. We talked about the differences, okay? We didn't mention 40 days and 40 nights to 6 days, 6 nights, and then, of course, on Noah's Ark, they lasted for, they were actually at sea for a year. Then keep that in mind, they were at sea for a year. Now, these creation stories are reporting the same historical event. The Noah's Ark version is the true version. This is what a lot of believers believe, that Noah's Ark version is the true version. So just listen to these right here just so you can see. Literary dependent is what they say it is, and I'm going to explain to you what literary dependence is. It's one text reuse of another's. Now, here's how they do this. Now, let me just let it click off so I can just pause it at the end. Okay, so here's why they say, if you look it up online on Christian apologist sites, this is what they say, that the characters aren't the same. So if they use a man named Utnapishtim and we use a man named Moses, then they can't be the same, because if they was going to copy the story, they'd take the name. Really, guys? Really? You guys, what you going to say? It wasn't exact word for word. This is what they say to try to say something wasn't plagiarized. It's not the same phrases of words, and it's not the same theology, because they weren't talking about Christianity, of course. And this is what makes these apologists say that no, the Noah's Ark is original, even though it obviously copies Gilgamesh. All right. But they say Noah's Ark is true. Now, I want you guys to see something. The Epic of Gilgamesh to the Genesis story of Noah's Ark, do you guys not realize that the time frame or the age of Epic of Gilgamesh is so much older than Genesis? It is literally the time of the actual flood to now. That's how much older the Gilgamesh story is than Noah's story. That's how much older. The flood, we believe the people who believe the flood happened all the way to now. That time frame, that would be the same thing, around 4,000 or 5,000 years. That's how much older the Epic of Gilgamesh is. And that's the crazy thing is, it's not even the oldest. It's not even the oldest. Not even close. So we're going to just hang on, because y'all going to get this work. So after Gilgamesh, you have what they call the tHE. That's 500 years before the Epic of Gilgamesh. Now, why is that? Right? Now, Jamal's going to come on shortly, and he's going to take on the burden of Epic of Gilgamesh and explain that to you guys. So what me and Lorenzo are going to do right now is we're just going to talk about some of the inconsistencies in it. Lorenzo, I'm sure you looked over it, and I know that it just doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Mathematically, when you approach this story and add logic to it, it just doesn't make sense. And we talked about this week. We both do this. So did you get some things that you wanted to shine some light on? I think we should take turns because just in case we wrote some of the same stuff down.
Now, what? Just so I make sure I'm thinking the right thing. That's the same thing you're thinking. What aspect are we talking about here?
I'll tell you what.
We're talking about
just the foolishness in it. And I'll tell you what. I'll go first, and then you'll see exactly what I mean.
Oh.
Okay, so one of the problems I find with this story is simply that there's over 10,000 species of birds. How the heck this dude get all them birds to come to him? Like, I just really want to know that. Like, I can see you get out and actually pick up animals that can be caught, but I don't know how this man was an expert bird catcher and an ark builder. Like, this man had mad talent. So that's just one out there, but that's 10,000 species of birds that would have been aboard this ark. Okay, Lorenzo.
All right. Ooh, this is fun. We're gonna take turns. How about this aspect of it? That if it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, that the type of rain that it would take in order for it to cover the earth would be like monster hurricanes all over the planet at the same time. It took like only 170 days to for them to see the mountains, or 100 and something days to see the mountain peak. And then it took like another 100 and something days or 200 something days for all the water to drain off, right? That's according to the story. I know the total time frame is 410, 420 days. From the first raindrop to all the water has drained off. According to science, it would take over 100 years for either the earth, a combination of the earth absorbing and evaporation in order to clear the land again. But amazingly, this happened all in 420 days, a year and some change. They was able to rain and get it all off. That's impossible. That doesn't do nothing.
Facts. Okay, so here's another one. We always talk about 2 of each animal and 7 of each animal, how they make it to the ark, right? We talk about things like, how did a sloth make it all the way from Central America, male and female? But what about this one? What if some of the males or some of the females were not fertile and they could not yield other life? How would Noah know that they weren't fertile? How would he know? So he just rams all these animals up on an ark and expects them all to be ready to procreate, when we know that there are problems that's actually in nature where animals are not fertile. They do not reproduce. So that's another inconsistency I found. If one of those animals out of all those millions of animals was not fertile, that would have just totally messed up Yahweh's plan, right?
Completely. So now that all right, I like my water thing. So
I like it too.
According to the story, the rains covered the highest mountain. Now we know that the highest mountain on the planet is Mount Everest.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that if you were to go to the top of Mount Everest, you're going to freeze to death. And it can't burn fire. So how in the world did the elephant, who has no cover, no fur, and there's no warmth on the boat, how did they maintain the elephant and the crocodiles and the python?
Mm-hmm.
Those animals surely would have died. And even though the polar bear miraculously got there and have fur, it still is going to die at that elevation. Why? Because the oxygen is so low that they can't breathe. And there's no heat, so everybody freezes. And there's no water because all the water is frozen at that elevation. So, yeah, that's not happening.
That's not happening, bro. And I think Mount Everest is, 26,000 feet? That's how high the water would have had to be to have covered it? Ridiculous.
Right.
Maybe Mount Everest was shorter at that time. It just grew. It got taller. Faith can move mountains, right?
Right.
That's what they mean by faith can move mountains.
Because somebody is going to say, well, India's tectonic plate is pushing against Asia's tectonic plate, which creates the Himalayan mountains. But dude, for just to get like 100 feet, you're talking millions of years. So that doesn't fly because we don't have millions of years in this time frame.
Absolutely. So I have here the lifespan of the animals on there. You have several animals who won't even live a year, even if they're in the best condition. Some animals and insects just don't live that long. Their lifespan fades really quickly. Caterpillars and butterflies are one of them. They do not live for years, guys. So how did they live for years if it's just too long? How'd they live for a year? I just really want to know that. And then have more babies, you know, and procreate after the fact that, but you know, the Lord works in mysterious ways. I get where you guys, where you put in your faith, but I'm asking you to use some logic. My stuff is just really short. I'm gonna give it back to you, Lorenzo.
Okay, you still with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, when you have, if it rains for that long during that time frame, then I'm staying with the water again.
Okay.
You're gonna have a huge mixture of salt water and seawater. Which is going to kill pretty much every animal in the water.
All clearwater fish dead.
Oh, and saltwater fish, they dying too because the mixture is great. Only the ones at the very, 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 very bottom may survive. But here's the biggest hit, though. Plankton are not at the very, 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 very bottom, and plankton supply over 60% of the Earth's oxygen. So everything's dead anyway.
Phytoplankton. Look it up, guys. Phytoplankton. Yep. If phytoplankton were to be destroyed, we would not be honestly. We always talk about we get our breathing or our oxygen from trees, but most of it actually comes from phytoplankton in the ocean. Lorenzo's 100% right.
Right.
Okay, so here's mine. I have parasites. They would have had to put tapeworms in their body, hookworms. They would have had to, carry a lot of different parasites that need to live as lice, head lice. They would have had to carry some crab lice, actual crabs. They would have had to get a lot of parasites that would have died. So I imagine they would have went and probably ate crap just to get some tapeworms in their body and all that stuff. So Shem and Ham, they were real troopers for this, man. Y'all got to understand that. Lorenzo?
Okay, so here's one. So the whole world is covered by water for a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means that all the vegetation on the planet is covered by water for a year. So even if by some miracle they were able to survive at the height of Mount Rushmore and wait for the water to descend of over a year, when you release the elephants who need 44 pounds of grain a day just to live, and you got 2 of them on there, when you release them, they are being released and every other animal to a barren land that has no vegetation, which means they're all going to die. And then the animals who are carnivores, they're going to die right behind that. So everything is dead again, and it doesn't work.
Wow, there you have it. Lorenzo talked about water elevating to being cold areas. Now, you have different animals on this ship who actually now I say need, N-E-E-D, they need different habitats to survive. You cannot put a polar bear in Africa. The cold is too large, they would die, they would suffocate, right? They'd die of heat exposure. So that would be a problem. You have to give them a cold facility, a cold habitat. But the problem is you wouldn't be able to put penguins in there with them. So now you got to create 2. You can't put carnivores in with, or prey in with carnivores. So that would be an immediate problem. But how do you create a habitat for, like Lorenzo said, it's going to get really cold. If the inside of this ark is going to be insulated, you're going to have an area that's really hot for that desert scorpion and also really cold for that polar bear and those penguins. You're going to have those things. So, and also really moist like a marsh for like a lot of the toads that need moisture. Now, a lot of the amphibian creatures, Komodo dragons, things of that nature. Just funny thinking of Komodo dragons getting on the ark, I guess because nobody ever draws them in. But somebody need to draw Komodo dragons climbing up. I think people are being really unfair to the Komodos. All right, Lorenzo, it's on you, brother.
Okay. Okay. So, according to the story, only Noah and his family survived and were part of this flood, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yet, when we look at the Chinese dynasty's records, the Shu Empire, the Shu family, the Shu Empire was going on at this time frame, And their records show no break in their construction, no break in their leadership, no break in their society, that they just moseyed right on along, and there was no flood that reached China, which is part of the earth. So I'm wondering how that happened.
Yeah, their library is pretty extensive, man. They weren't wiped out. No way. That's a dagger, guys. Like this, they have literal proof that they haven't been wiped out. The flood story never happened. If y'all want to keep supporting this, I'm telling you, you're doing it by faith. You're not being logical. You're not being fair. You're not being intellectual at all. You are abandoning your intellectual just so you can adopt a belief in some foolishness. And I'm telling you, it's going to hurt you. It's hurting you now. You just don't realize it. Another one is this ark would have had 4,000 species of termites. Now, I don't mean to poke holes, but that was the pun. I didn't know if you, yeah. But thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I know, right? But you see how Lorenzo just sank my ship? That would have happened to Noah's Ark with all those 4,000 termites on it, unless he put them in steel. Now, I don't think Noah is a blacksmith as well, because they didn't have glass back then, guys. Also, snakes, they would have had to muzzle them because they're going to eat each other, right? They would have had to muzzle all the snakes. And how many, let's see, did I put, crap, I didn't put it, how many actual species of snakes it is. I will put it in the notes on this video later, though, guys. And also, there would have been 12 tons of feces per day, Lorenzo. 12 tons of feces per day. Now, watch this. That's only for 16,000 animals. So, that's only for 16,000 animals. Not all these animals, right? So that presents a huge problem. And then my last one was, 200 and something years later, they built the Tower of Babel. They completely forgot what Yahweh had did to them by saving their life. So a couple generations and they built the Tower of Heaven, right? Completely forgot about everything. Just, you have to really try hard to believe this stuff.
You really have to try, and you have to just ignore stuff. Like one of the things that I talked about extensively in the video that I did was the fact that the word that's used to the word that's been translated to mean earth in the story is the word Eretz, right? But I want people to go and research the word Eretz, where you say the etymology of the word, and what you'll see is that Eretz means land or country.
Absolutely.
It means a general area. It doesn't mean the whole world, because like when you look at that story, when you look at that word, every time it's used in the Bible, it actually means land, and they only meant that because like Cain was kicked out of Eden. I mean, Cain was told after he killed his brother, he said it says Cain had to leave the face of the earth, right? And he uses the word Eretz. But Cain went to a city and got a wife. If he had to leave the Eretz, then he's not going to a neighboring city and getting a wife. He went to another land, another country. So the word Eretz, and the word Eretz is all throughout the Bible. I got a whole bunch of scriptures that I had wrote down where the word Eretz was used. But of course, it's an impossibility for that to have been the entire word.
Right.
You know? So, I mean, like, Exodus 9:33 says that it uses the word Eretz to talk about a drought. There was no worldwide drought. There has never been a worldwide drought at the same time.
Exactly.
In recorded history all around the world, that's never happened. So the choice of words used, they would have to ignore the word and just don't care about it, what it says.
Wow. You guys hear this? I mean, you would literally have to ignore just to be able to stay subscribed to this stuff and even believe in these stories. Now, I know you heard them as children and you didn't read through them like that, and even as a child, you probably wouldn't even think to. You just believe whatever your parents that take care of you and love you tell you, right? It's not your fault for that. You were a child, but now we're adults, and it's time to really take and put a real critical eye to this stuff. Why continue to invest in this stuff, subscribe to this stuff, if it never happened? I mean, even if it did, the sheer fact that a God would want you to kill all of these animals to him, it's just crazy, guys. Somebody had said earlier that Noah got off this ark, killed some animals, and then went and got drunk. Actually, you're probably right. That's exactly what happened. I mean, Shem and Ham, the only reason that we black is because Shem laughed at Ham pretty much, right? Like wasn't Shem or Ham? Which one laughed at the other?
Ham laughed.
I'm sorry, laughed at his daddy. Noah was so drunk he was naked.
Ham laughed at his daddy because he was drunk.
Yeah, he was naked and laughed and was turned black because of it, right? It's just like we can't believe in foolish stuff like this, guys.
Hey, that's what them other dudes, them Israelites, want you to believe. Stuff like that.
We gotta leave that stuff. We gotta leave that stuff where it need to be. In the past, just leave it there and just move forward without it. We don't need it. Why would you need this story? Just think about it. Why? And what's crazy is because they want to believe in Jesus, they'll actually support this story as well. And that's what's crazy is they know this is bull crap. Like they know I think deep down they know the whole world never flooded. Like I know they gotta know that. I mean, I hope they know that. But at the end of the day, I believe they're holding on to it because they want to believe and have hope in Jesus. They want to go to heaven. They still fear hell. And I get it. But man, you gotta really look at this stuff. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
That's all we're saying. We're not trying to make you look stupid. We're not trying to embarrass you. We're trying to show you the real stuff here. Like, so you can make a decision for yourself, but you can't be biased and keep leaning towards your narrative. And that's what most people do. They like to take what they already believe in and find something that says it's real or that speaks to it and say, I'm gonna continue to believe in it because I found this. We're telling you this stuff predates Noah's Ark. And if you still want to hang on to it, then you're doing it because you just want to. You're not being intellectually honest.
And you hit the nail on the head. It's really about fear, right? That fear of hell got people so caught up into it that you will just turn away from the common sense that you have, the ability to think through something and know that, hey, I know this ain't right, but I'm so afraid of hell that I got to make it right because I got to have my salvation. I got to have my Savior so I can get into heaven. And that is the thing that keeps people from actually opening their mind, is the fact they have this fear of hell. Now, if they just realize that there is no such thing as hell, then they wouldn't have this fear. And you can look at things and say, I see exactly what this is, and I'm going to go based on exactly what it is. Whether it's black, whether it's white, whether this group did well, that group did well, doesn't matter. It is what it is. Truth is truth. But that fear of hell, that's why it's preached. It's preached real good. That fear of hell will keep you from ever stepping away from it. They can't let it go.
It's 100% true. And if you guys want to get technical and say, well, how you know the whole world didn't flood? Like, guys, be honest with yourself. We have structures that are older than Noah's Ark story. Okay, if the whole world flooded, wouldn't it have wiped them out? Wouldn't the pyramids been somewhere else? Like, there are people who are buried like literally 6 feet below the Earth's surface. Okay, they would have risen to the surface with that type of flood. They would have been washed everywhere. They still land there with their belongings and everything with them, cloth and everything, just wrapped up, looking good, perfect embalmation, right? And I mean, perfect embalming. And it's like, you guys think that they're going and digging up all these pharaohs out of these grave sites and tombs, and there was an actual flood. Like, no way they would be able to find this stuff, guys. Like, really think hard. Think hard, man. It's just you gotta use your logical mind. You can't always go to a Christian site and try to make sense of stuff. All you gotta do is think. Your mind is so powerful. Like, in all honesty, that's where your belief is now. So all this power that you think you feel from this God is literally in your mind. If you took all that power that you have and just shifted it from the play side over here to the realistic side, I guarantee you will probably be a genius overnight. Like, you'll wake up from this stuff and be like, Lorenzo, you were once a Christian, right?
Yeah, about that much time.
Right. Now, and that's okay, cool. Now, and here's the thing, guys. When a lot of us, they see us and be like, man, it's hard to believe you ever were because you're so intelligent. This is what people say. But they don't understand that, like, if deceived is deceived, man. If you believe in something, you're not going to use your brain when you support to something. There are people who women get beat on and think their husbands do it because they love them. You don't understand. He ain't that bad. He just he just loses sometimes. He don't have control. He's not really doing this on purpose because it's cognitive dissonance. They want to be with this person so bad. Because here's the thing, guys. You got to understand this. Most people do lie to themselves. Most people lie to themselves. They lie to themselves about the future. Most people believe that the future will be better than what the current situation shows them. No doubt about it. And we all do. I think we kind of need to do this to We need to do this to move forward. I guess when things don't look good, we like to believe in something better. Okay, so consistently we do these things, and we're going to believe it because we need to, even when it doesn't look good. But when you understanding that belief in yourself, that's different. Belief in a religion, that will bind you. That will bind you because people can use it against you. And that's what you don't understand. If you're a Christian and I walk up to you and tell you, thus saith the Lord, if you go to Walmart, there's going to be a man there, he's going to bless you. Your honey going to get in your car and go to Walmart. Not because you believe me, but because your honey believe in Jesus. You see what I'm saying? I'm a complete stranger, but you're going to believe me. And this is exactly how Christians act, I promise you. Or believers for that matter, not even just Christians. Any person who subscribes to belief. They're easily manipulated by the people who support their belief or that use their belief against them. Thank you very much, Brian. And guys, the fact is, like what Lorenzo was telling you guys about Zero Sudra was, these guys, when he mentioned Yahweh, he's talking about the same Yahweh in the Bible. This dude has siblings, okay? The elephantine papyri. Okay, let me speak to this because this is what I was talking about being intellectually honest. So people say, Kevin, why you don't debate? Here's a lot of the reason why I don't debate. Is because a lot of people, because of their religion and their need to hold on to it, they're going to be intellectually dishonest. When I was talking to the Hebrew Israelites about the Codex Sinaiticus, I asked them about sending me an older version because they said that you're wrong, bro. Hebrew is older than Greek. I said, prove it. I guarantee you that Aleph was made from Alpha. Bait was made from Beta. Trust me, Greek is Hebrew's daddy, right? And he said, well, I can prove you wrong. I'm going to send you the elephantine papyri. Now, watch this, guys. At this moment, I had never heard of the elephantine papyri. Had I had this man on a show and had thousands of people watching, they would have thought this man was right. Right? And I wouldn't have been able to stop my show and go research to prove this dude wrong. I would have just been sitting there like, okay, so there's an older one, and I'd have made this. It's bullcrap, guys. And I told him, I said, are you telling me that this has an older version or complete version of Deuteronomy? Because I already know there isn't one. But again, hadn't heard of the Codex, of the elephantine papyri. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to myself. So I said, send it to me. I'll look at it. He sent it to me. I went and looked at it. And what do you know? Several gods. Yahweh's in there. He's the predominant God being worshipped. But there's several other gods. And Yahweh has a wife. Women are treated way nicer. Women can own land, get divorces on their own, start property, start businesses, all this kind of stuff in this elephantine papyri. Why would he send this to me? I asked all of his buddies, would you send this to me to prove that the Codex Sinaiticus was not the actual Deuteronomy? And one of them, Berean, he said, no, I wouldn't. And I told him I appreciated his honesty. But the other one tried to defend him and say, well, he only sent that to you to prove to you that there was an older version. Why would you send that to me if it doesn't contain Deuteronomy? That's stupid, literally stupid. It's intellectually dishonest, and that you would have had me sitting up on camera looking stupid. I don't trust them because they have an agenda. I don't have one. I'm not subscribed to belief. I may say something on my show that's wrong. I've told you before. A lot of the people who are my friends and associates know more than me. I'm learning. I study very hard, trust me, but I'm learning. If I say something that's incorrect or I'm wrong, I can simply correct it and not say the crap again. But when it's religion, you guys are subscribed to it, and you can't be wrong because you don't want to lose your belief, so you will lie, do anything. I can't deal with it. I simply cannot deal with it. I just wanted to throw that out there, Lorenzo, because since I exposed this guy this week for this, I've gotten a few contacts from his buddies saying, why you running from him? I'm like, running from him? This dude sent me the elephantine papyri, blah, 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 blah. Yahweh had a wife, blah, blah, blah. You know, and I done had to keep repeating this crap all week, and I'm sick of it. So I want them to see this show and understand this is exactly why I don't debate, because stupid stuff like that. What's up, Jamal?
To the Food family, how we doing?
Man, we're doing well, man. Welcome in, brother.
Good to see you, brothers.
Good to see you. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. So what we doing? We still floating on this water or what? What are we doing?
Listen, we threw a whole bookmark in the podcast just for you, man. I want you to come in and just explain to me a little bit, if you will, about the beautiful tHE, which predates Epic of Gilgamesh by 500 years, if you don't mind.
Yeah, the Epic of tHE, specifically tablet WB 62, is the one that you want to deal with. That's the one that gives you the original account of not only the creation of the world and human beings. It lists all the different deities that were in existence at that time, not excluding Allah, not excluding Yah, where we get Yahweh from. They spell it EA. This is where you're dealing with Enki, Anu, which turns into the Anunnaki. All of these different deities are in this story, and the epic is really quite fascinating because there's several stories within the story. So you have stories of the creation of man in there. You have flood stories. You have war stories between the head gods and the lower gods. The creation of the universe, the digging out of the Nile. All of this stuff is incorporated in this one tablet, and I think the beautiful thing about it is that this tablet comes from the place in which was supposedly destroyed by the Bible. You're dealing with, Sodom and Gomorrah, that whole area, right? The cities that no longer exist, but we managed to get these artifacts and be able to decipher them, be able to read them, and honestly see where every single story, all of the stories of creation came from. The original text. And if we still on Noah's Ark, it talks about all the flood stories. I mean, there's way more than one flood story. There's hundreds and hundreds of accounts of flood stories because during that time, in that region, flooding of the Nile was the biggest event in all of Africa. That's how we was able to feed our families. I mean, we knew when to plant our seeds. We knew when to harvest. We knew when it was time to reap. So, that's what was a major holiday. It was like the New Year was the flooding of the river. That was the New Year in Africa. So all of that is surrounded around this event. So to say that it was just one big flood wouldn't be accurate according to history. That's not breaking down the data accurately at all. And the Epic of tHE is what covers all of the particulars of these events prior to human beings even being on the existence of this planet. It talks about the creation of human beings. So it's levels when we're dealing with the Epic of tHE.
Wow. People putting fire flames up. Absolutely. I mean, and someone says, regardless of these stories, none of them are absolutely needed for happiness when it talks about the myth and the stories or whatever. And this is what I'm saying to you guys. You're right, you see. And why do you guys need a Moses? Right? Why do you need this dude to have existed? Why? Why do you need Egypt to have enslaved Israelites? Why do you need this to happen? It never happened. You see what I'm saying? And people say, well, how you know it didn't happen? Like, dude, there's no evidence of it. Like, period. They've never found any Israelite type pottery, no nothing in Egypt. And you guys, and now the belief is that the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt for several years. This is what the Bible says.
430 years to be exact.
But left nothing. Nothing.
Not even a spoon.
We can't even find them doors they put blood over. Where that at?
You know what I'm saying? Like, they got to do better than that, man. You know what I'm saying? But if you read the text correctly, it does not say they were in bondage for 430 years. It says the covenant. The covenant and the promise from the time that the first covenant was made to the time that they would actually go into the new promised land was going to be an extension of 430 years. But because Hollywood has given you this idea of 430 years with Charlton Heston and the whole 9 yards, they actually thought that they were enslaved for 430 years, which is mathematically impossible when you look at the age of Moses and the people that is mentioned in the book who actually made it to the promised land. And when they died, that would be an impossibility mathematically for it to be a total of 430 years because some of them didn't even live to be that. And then you have Moses, then you have Moses talking about in the book of Deuteronomy how he died in the book. And if he wrote the first 5 books, how is he talking about when he died in the last book? It don't even make sense.
A man cannot write about when he died.
Moses is speaking in third person.
Right, absolutely.
Right.
Who does that?
Well, maybe he the rock though. But that doesn't walk around. But Moses doesn't care what you
yeah. You know what I'm saying? They got to do better, man. They got to do better.
You know what?
The Epic of tHE is a dangerous tablet because it proves that that Yahweh and Allah are all brothers. And that's the part that's really scary for religion. Because when they realize that they all came from the same family tree, and that it's literally like night and day, two brothers bickering against one another, and all you're doing is picking which side of the family you want to deal with today, at the end of the day. Because they're all a family and they were working together. Matter of fact, even worse, they weren't even the head deity in the story. They were ditch diggers. They were the sons of the real head father, who was called Anu, where we get Anunnaki from, right? And then you can trace that back to Africa, where you get Anu from, because Anu is actually a spin-off of Anak, where you hear in the Bible they talk about the sons of Anak, which were the Nephilim giants, which when we came in, they would be considered gods because they were much larger than us. Black people existed during this time, and the sons of Anak were the original human beings that came out of the Nile River of Africa. So when you tie this story, you link this all the way back, it totally crushes religion, and that's the reason why you don't hear these terms. You don't hear about the Epic of tHE. You may hear about the Epic of Gilgamesh, because that ties into, like, Christmas, and you're dealing with Nimrod and the Tower of Babel, all that type of stuff. So they don't mind playing around with that. But when you're dealing with the creation of where everything started from, they don't want to deal with that. That's the stuff they got to take out. The books of Enoch, all the original books of Adam and Eve, supposedly, right? All of this stuff gets taken out of the Bible. Maccabees, those are dangerous books.
Absolutely. What was you gonna say, Lorenzo?
When we was going back and forth a little while ago, there was something I was gonna say, but then I just let it go because we moved on. But my man Alton Johnson never fails me to bring up something. So Alton, let me answer your question, bro. So he asked the question, and this is a popular defense of many Christians when it comes to the worldwide flood, and that is, why do they find sea life skeletal remains, fossilized remains in the mountains? Well, sir, let me explain science to you for a second. The way science works, when the earth is first made, there are no mountains, because mountains are created through tectonic plates bumping against each other and slowly growing upward, right? Land is created through volcanoes and the overflow and being cooled in the ocean, so they're going upward. So the land was flat and pretty much under the water. As the land over the tectonic plates merge and go upward and create mountains, those marine life that died on that flat, submerged land fossilized, which takes so very long in order for that to happen. They end up being at the top of these mountains or along these mountain ranges. Why? Because of science and tectonic plates and movement of the earth. The United States moves every year. In a few 100 million years, we will crash into China as a country, and a new mountain range will form between China and Canada and the northern United States. So it's called science and tectonic plates. You should look it up. That's why we have earthquakes and volcanic eruptions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you get it.
Happens today.
Absolutely. You got the lava right at the bottom of sea level, right there at the molten rock. Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna do you even one better. The Epic of tHE, right, talks about how these ditch diggers are the ones who created mountains. So you say, what do you mean they created mountains? Well, it talks about the gods and how mountains are created. If you have, like he said, a flat land, right, and there's no water there, if you keep digging and digging and digging deep enough, eventually you're going to end up in a valley, and in front of you is going to be a mountain. And it talks about how the Nephilim dug out these mountains. The Nile River was a man-made dug river. So was the Grand Canyon. This is what we were doing. This is what the ancients did to create the indignation of the waters to fertilize the land. And it talks about how they created human beings to finish the work because the workload was too heavy. They didn't want to do it no more. And that's why they created us. So that's what the Epic of tHE is actually about. It's talking about mountains being created and valleys being created. And it says that we did that work.
I wish I had like a button to push and make like explosions go out with fireworks and stuff like that. Because Lorenzo would have blew my button up early about like 4 or 5 times, and then you would have just got it just now, Jamal, like blow. It'd be dope if you could see like fireworks all over the screen.
That's the stuff we don't think about, man.
I could do that, but it'd be kind of cheesy to me.
See, all my ideas cheesy. So I like cheesy. People love cheesy.
When you talk about termites on a boat and poking holes and stuff, we love it.
Yeah, man, I don't want to poke holes, but 4,000 termites? Come on now.
You will actually find monuments to this day that belong to Africans.
Something happened to Jamal.
I wonder if he was about to say that you'll find monuments that belong to Egyptians and Africans in the Grand Canyon and in the Indus Valley. You'll find them out in Australia amongst the Aboriginals, but you'll also find it in South America. But you'll find these structures and this information. You'll find structures and you'll find things like that in all of those cultures all around the world. And then you have to ask, how did it get there? How did it get there unless somebody went there, or these manuscripts like the Atrahasis, the Sumerian text, the Enuma Elish, these texts have been written and recorded by people who were listening to somebody else tell them the story. It turns out that their stuff has proof, though. That's the thing that kills me, is that the Enuma Elish talks about how Enki and Harsag was down in the Apsu, South Africa, creating man, playing around with man's genome. And what do they find today? They find 200,000-year-old human crawl civilizations down in South Africa, in that whole area down there. And you can Google Map to see them, right? Google Maps even has it on there. So these books are giving you physical proof. The other one, however, gives you no physical proof. Because if this flood had happened, then you would look at the pyramids and there'd be a water line. If it sat there it would have been covered. You see the water damage would just be all over that thing. And as it slowly decreased, you'll see the different water lines along the pyramids, and you'll see it all over the world, but you don't see that. You don't see that at all. You just see it in areas where there may have been a flood here or there, which were all localized.
And that's just the thing. Like he's. Well, I'm sorry, Louis. I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say
something.
Mm-hmm.
Something else. Something else that Jamar had alluded to a little bit earlier was the fact that, beforehand, when the Nile River would flood, the Egyptians thought it was a terrible thing. They thought it was a horrible thing, that they were being punished, by the gods or whomever. But then they started realizing that every time these floods come, when they recede, they leave nutrients that they brought from, downriver and refertilize the land. So then they start to realize that the flood every year is a blessing because it revitalizes the land, right? So we have to get our minds wrapped around it like that. Go ahead, Jamar. I see you back. Sorry.
Yeah. So even to this day, you can go and you guys can look this up on your own at home. You can find temples that belong to Africans inside of the Grand Canyon to show you that we were down there in that valley doing work. A lot of people might think that was just something that just an anomaly that created like that. No, there were larger beings on this planet before we got here. There was larger vegetation on this planet before we got here, larger animals before we got here. And our world was very, very different before we actually hit the modern day human that you see now, Homo sapiens sapien. Before we got here, there was a larger version of us, and we are just remnants of that. When you're looking at these trees now, these trees are like little plants compared to the trees that we used to have. They used to be called Asherah poles. They were huge. And we were, or our ancestors were in charge of indoctrinating the ground to fertilize the ground so that we can actually create what you see today. They just got tired of work.
Asherah poles is in your Bible too, just so you know. Asherah poles, Asherah, Astarte, all that. Yep.
Absolutely, Asherah, and it talks about how they came out of the Caucasus Mountains and were told to cut down the Asherah poles, because those Asherah poles is what actually gave us our strength, because we were still dealing with the giants, or the Nephilim as they call them. We were still dealing with them, and they was helping us deal with the pyramids and build the pyramids and all of that. And they knew that was the source of their nutrients. When you cut down those trees, that depletes the oxygen, so therefore the Nephilim became weak. They didn't have enough oxygen. The animals that we had couldn't survive anymore because there wasn't enough oxygen in the air. The birds that used to fly around, the big birds that we had, no longer here because there's not enough oxygen to even keep them off the ground. So it was a very different planet that we lived on back then. So you gotta keep in mind the climate that was going on back then. So that's how we end up to where we are today. The Epic of tHE thoroughly explains that whole thing. And when you start lining it up to other cultures, you see where they took their stories from.
Okay,
that's what they're scared of.
I'm gonna say something real quick, guys, because Alton Johnson just said pagan symbols. Let me be clear about something. You are responding from your own paradigm, from what you personally know. One of the things that Dr. Ray Hagins does is he has people hold up a circle, and he has them to repeat after him, and it's something like, inside this circle exists my personal realm of knowledge. Everything I think I know exists inside this circle. Now, I must understand that there's more to know than what's inside this circle, right? In order to do that, you got to be open-minded so you can receive some of this information. If you hear something that you've never heard before, it doesn't mean it's not true. It just means you've never heard it. You're sitting here saying that it's pagan symbols because you've been taught that, okay? He also still talking about, what's the name, the Grand Canyon. And it's like the sheer fact that you're still trying to make the whole world be flooded. It's like, did you ignore all of the proof that this crap was plagiarized? So it's like if you see one indication like, okay, fossils at the top of a mountain. So this means that 2 animals boarded the ark, 7 animals boarded the ark, and survived for a year on an ark that was too small to even house them. This is what you believe. And it's like you will stop at nothing to keep your belief. The fact that you're still arguing about it just speaks to that. Someone also said, Kevin, can you speak to about bullying Christians who are actually researching and asking questions? Yeah, please don't do that. If they're really seriously asking you questions, try to be as nice as you can. My problem is I have a lot of Christians who pop up on my page, and they don't come with a adult attitude. They just pop up like, hey, yo, is this the fake pastor? And then I'm going to treat you like crap because I'm going to treat you like you need to be treated. That's how you treat me, so I'm going to treat you the same way. I'm going to be really short with you, and you're probably going to get blocked. If you actually want to have an intellectual conversation, just come on and have an intellectual conversation. I'm always open to that. I am an adult. I don't like games. I really don't. I like to have a real conversation and get on about my business. So if a Christian does come and they are genuinely asking questions, yeah, please treat them with respect. They're human beings just like you guys. They just are still Christians. They still subscribe. They need to be awake. And this is what we do this for. So that's when you should get really excited to work with Christians or any religious person, because this is what we do this for. All right, so it always trips me out. Like a Christian, I'll ask them a question and they'll just leave and be like, "You on your own, bye." I'd never do that to a Christian. You see what I'm saying? If you really genuinely want to work at this, we're gonna work together until we get you free. As long as you literally trying to get free. If you're just coming to be stupid and coming to argue and honestly, literally debate, I'm gonna try to trump whatever you say. I'm not gonna do it. Okay? But I wanted to speak to that because, again, while Jamal's over here in the middle of his conversation, Lorenzo, Alton is over here saying those are pagan symbols, and it's like, why, man? Why respond from your own mental paradigm? These guys clearly know more than you. Every time, even when you call on the show, you actually have no logic, okay? Because you're responding from what you already know.
Hold on, Kev. I'm gonna actually help him out with that because, the word pagan, by definition, is a person holding religious beliefs other than those of main world religions. I don't have no problem with that at all. You could call me a pagan all you want, and I say, yeah, I don't hold the same beliefs as everybody else that deal with religion because I don't deal with religions. I got no problem with that. That's by definition what that word actually means.
But I know where he's coming from. You see what I'm saying?
I know what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Freddie. To put it into the context of a heathen or an infidel.
Absolutely.
Which is a difference. You understand? They've made it synonymous, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So what you're looking at is the symbols that actually created your religion. Your religion is based off of them trying to mimic this to build their civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole other topic that we could totally thoroughly break down if you're willing to be, like you said, open-minded enough to widen your circle and widen your spectrum and understand that everything that you were taught in life is not necessarily true. Not because they wanted you to lie to you, but simply because they might not have known themselves. You understand what I'm saying? You're talking to somebody who dealt with religion for 35 years of my life. You understand? Both my parents are still ordained ministers. For somebody like me who went to church 6 days a week and then on the 7th day was in service, you understand? You have to understand that something dramatic must have happened. I must have seen something so crazy that rocked my world enough to say, whoa, I'm willing to throw away my entire life to take this time to be on this call to address you and help you to cultivate your mind enough to think outside that box. Think about that. Think about the personal testimony that you're seeing from Kevin, from Coach Renz, and from myself. Because if you do the actual history on the people that you're talking to, you see that we was never no slouches from the beginning up until now. You understand?
Absolutely right.
Can I just say I don't think we should spend too much time on Alton because we did this last week.
I'm completely done. I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm completely done. Right. And literally the only reason I spoke to it is because that's honestly what religious people do. They like to find one little small thing and try to make the whole world flood because of the Grand Canyon or a fossil. You see what I'm saying? It's like we can't keep coming at these conclusions when you see that it's been plagiarized. Like, come on, at some point we gotta take our eyes out of the Bible and look at the actual real stuff in history and say, okay, maybe I shouldn't carry this stuff into the future. Maybe I shouldn't continue teaching this to my children. There are way too many inconsistencies, and frankly, if there was zero inconsistencies, the sheer fact that a God would destroy the whole world and everybody in it because of a mistake when he knew it was going to happen and could have prevented it, as he knows every freaking thing, and still allowed it to happen to kill these people and then demand sacrifices after the fact. Like, it would be, who would want to serve somebody like that? And it's just like, to me, it's like, why not just walk away? You see what I'm saying? But I understand that you guys think you're going to go to hell, but please use your brain. That's all I'm saying. Please use your brain. Stop using what you've already learned. Actually think. Don't just think back in your mind to what you already learned and throw something out, regurgitate. Actually use your brain to think.
So I also wanted to touch on one other thing, and I'm going to go back on mute. You guys already kind of presented like the biblical context and like the plagiarism in it. So I guess also to touch on the point if he's genuine about his questions, I don't know. I don't think so. But either way, he's either late to this session or he doesn't think in a logical manner. So it doesn't make sense to try to just keep going back and forth with him in particular. I just don't see the point.
I actually 100% agree.
Okay. So
I also want to address one of the other
things
over here, where they said Jamar. Somebody said, where is he at? Jamar believes in the Outer Africa theory, something like that. Let me talk to you about that real second, and I'll break that down to you as far as what's really going on as far as the Outer Africa theory. All human beings, and I want you to listen to my words carefully, all human beings came from Africa, okay? All human beings have a common ancestor with other beings that branched off to create these other beings. Some of those started in Africa, some of those didn't. Okay, so we have some that are mixed with Neanderthal. They didn't start in Africa, but they still have a common ancestor. You have Homo sapiens sapien, you have Homo erectus, you have all these different sects of human beings that branched off of a common ancestor. The ones who are Homo sapiens sapien started in Africa. I am a Homo sapiens sapien. I don't know what you are, but I'm a Homo sapiens sapien. If you are a Homo erectus, then you would have a common ancestor other than me. If you are a Neanderthal, you would have a common ancestor other than me. But I know human beings or Homo sapiens sapiens started off in Africa, and that's a fact. You can back that with science.
And you know what else is science? I had noticed in the comment that there was a conversation about Olmecs, that the Olmecs weren't African, right? That they didn't come from Africa. But there's a little known DNA story that came out a few years ago about a Chinese geneticist who was trying to disprove that Chinese people came from Africa, was also trying to disprove the story of the Chinese missionaries who went looking for the Zai people who were the Olmecs, but what they found out is that the Chinese people migrated from East Africa, primarily that Ethiopian area, migrated from East Africa, were in China when the land bridge formed across the Aleutian Islands, crossed the land bridge because they were following life, which is their food, following the herds, and then migrated throughout the Americas and became the Olmecs and all other groups down throughout the Americas that Europeans so-called discovered. But he didn't want to publish his information because he was like, he wanted Chinese people to just be indigenous of China. But he's a true scientist and said truth is just truth. And that's what we have to get to, is where people can just say truth is just truth. Because if the Chinese came from there and then they became the native, they were Africans who went to China, who then came to the Americas, and then after hundreds of years, the Chinese people adapted to their environment, and then they go over to the Americas, find these Zai people who are dark, black, melanated people, and then start intermixing with them, then you get your red man, so to speak, and you get those differences. But the Olmecs left giant statues showing who they were and what they looked like, and you can't deny what's materially in front of you. You can't deny that, and that's what and that's not and there's, I forgot who was making the comment about Olmecs and not being African and that sort of thing. But you got to know the whole story. Don't just take the little part that you want to have and make that, this is it. But get the whole story, get all the info before you make your decision. And that's what I'm trying to teach.
The Olmecs were definitely out of the Sudan. Some of them were even out of the Congo, and they were warriors. That's who the Olmecs was. They were our biggest and strongest warriors, and some of them were the sons of Anak as well that came out of the Nile Valley. You could look at them with the Olmecs. It ain't even hard to tell. You don't even need DNA or a freaking microscope to figure out who they are once you match them up with them brothers in the Congo and the Sudan. All you got to do is stand them next to them and you say, they look like twins. You're going to see it right off the top that they all have a common ancestor. They all came from the same place. And I did this in one of my other videos. If you was in your village and you needed somebody to go out, right, and venture off into the rest of the universe, and you don't know what's out here, who are you going to send? You're not going to send your weaklings. You're going to send your biggest and strongest ones to go out there. And that's what the people of the Sudan were. They were warriors. When you look at Egypt, they were, and to even extrapolate even more on that, they were specifically really dark black Nubians. Okay, they were coming out of Nubia, and these are the actual ones. Their women were the ones that we framed, like King Tut. When you see the gold bust on King Tut and all that, that's framed after the people of Nubia, out of the Ethiopian women, because the women were warriors too back then. Okay, they was ridiculously fierce. Some of them were even more fierce than men. You will find glyphs of them holding the heads of men chopped off. And the women were no joke with fighting. And once we realized, about pregnancy and things of that nature and how to subdue the women, that's when the roles started to change. But before that, women were the hunter-gatherers and the men were dealing with textiles back at the house. It was the women who went and ventured out. And when you look at those busts are the faces of women, black women.
And I'll say this right here too, like if you guys really understood, like if you already have ideas in your mind, when you look at something, you're going to see it from how you were taught to see it. I'm just going to give you a real quick example. Obviously, Jamal dropping bombs on y'all right now, but I want to actually go into that right there on another show, Jamal. That's really good information. But I want to explain to you guys, there's this, and I'll put a video up actually to show it to you. But there's this bird that actually, when it catches different critters or rats or whatever it eats, it actually impales them on branches. Like they literally impale them on branches. They take their beak and pull them until the branch sticks through them, right? The spines from the plant stick through them, and then they pull the flesh off from there. So just imagine walking up and seeing this tree with all these, animals, small critters, impaled on it. If you don't know what you're looking at, you're going to think that somebody doing something evil over here. but that's simply how they respond. And it's just crazy because when I saw that video, the first thing I thought about, when I first saw it, it didn't show what bird did it and why it happened. And I was sitting there like, what is going on here? And then you see this bird actually doing this stuff. So I'm saying that to say, when you're learning something, always be willing to go back and look at history with an open mind so you can see what's going on, see the whole picture. If you're just willing to get it in pieces, you're going to always stand on the side of it's evil, right? I once stood there thinking pyramids, all that crap was completely evil, you know. And I even hate to say crap, it's just how I talk, but, you know, but I thought it was evil. Again, I was going around teaching that it was evil. You see what I'm saying? Because I was going based on my own understanding. I want you guys to understand that there's more to know. And if you take time to really just say, okay, I don't know everything. Jamal, do you know everything?
Definitely not.
See how easy?
I'm a forever student, eternal student.
It's easy to admit, right? Lorenzo, what about you?
I know it all, bro. I just want. Nah, man. I mean, you know, I've been a student for as long as I can remember, and I always will be, because there is always going to be something that we don't know, and then there's always something that to discover. Like, I don't know how far along they are in their discovery of, what is it, Gobi tHE? Well, I can't say that. I wish they would have named that something different, because I can't say it right.
Sorry. Thank you, thank you, lovely.
I'm sure that they're going to discover some things there that's going to change history. The excavation that's going on in South Africa with those crawls that are like over 200,000 years old, I'm sure they're going to discover some new things with that. And like we've been talking on this whole show, we're looking at multiple cultures that's telling a similar story, but differences here and there. You know, we're talking about the origins of man, right? But if you look at it from the Sumerian point of view, and somebody asks the question like, well, where do Neanderthals come from? What are these different species of man? Well, if I take it from the Sumerians, from the Anunnakis, then Enki is down in Apsu, and he created 16 different variations of man. You know, in his process, get to the ones that will work for him. You know, and if we look at the tHE, we're going to find similar things where the gods or God is creating and different types of man are created. So it's like, these are stories that we're learning from, and we're constantly learning, and nobody's claiming that they know everything, and we never will. We never will know everything.
Right. If you're honest, you're going to have to continuously change because, again, in light of new information, you cannot get stuck on old information and not be willing to change. Like, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? Like, you always want to have your mind open. And the main thing is not even the research and all that. It's just being an intelligent person. Always be thinking. Don't let people just tell you stuff. Challenge everything that someone says. Don't just believe the stuff. That's what we did as children. I had somebody tell me today that I should pray before I read the Bible and I'll get understanding. And I said, why don't you pray before you read the Quran? Pray to Allah. And he said no. Now, you a Christian telling me to pray to Yahweh, but you're not willing to pray to Allah. So how do you know the Quran ain't real if you've never accepted Allah into your heart first? You see what I'm saying? You're telling me to believe or support a belief in something before I even read about it? Come on, man. We cannot keep asking people to do these ridiculous things. I'm not about to sell my soul to something I don't even understand. I'll never do that again, frankly. I did that once in my life. It had me for many years, and I'm free from it now. And I'm free from it because it holds no historical value. Not because somebody made me mad, not because the biblical God made me mad. None of that. I was a happy Christian, helping people, loving people. But when I saw the truth, I abandoned that crap, just like anybody should do. Guys, this book is not the all in all. What good would this book do in a country where people die every day of hunger? What's reading the Bible going to do for them? This is supposed to be God's holy word. What is it going to do for them? Absolutely nothing. And it doesn't do anything for you now. It don't feed you now at all. And most of you guys as Christians didn't even read that book anyway, but claimed you got your morality from it. Like, come on. Come on, guys.
You know what's funny about what you just said is that when I read the book, let me rephrase that. When I was just accepting the book and just going by whatever I was told, I was happy. That was the country saying I was happy as a lark, right? I'm happy. Mm-hmm. But when I started studying the book, researching the book, man, I was disturbed. I was upset. I spent 10 years being disturbed and upset because I'm studying the book and realizing, wait a minute, this ain't right. That's not right. Oh, these people told that story before already. There's no physical evidence of this, but there's physical evidence of that. That disturbed me more than being in the book, because people always want to say that what hurt you, who hurt you, what bad leadership that you had hurt you. I was like, no, I mean, I had some leaders who didn't know, who didn't study themselves, but nobody hurt me. You know, I wasn't like that post that I put on Kevin's page earlier today, where the 10-year-old girl who was raped by the deacon, and then they forced her to marry him. You know, the church and her mom forced her to marry, and then she had 5 more kids. I didn't go through nothing like that. You know, I just researched and read, and I was disturbed. So all this we had to be hurt. They need to let that go.
It's just an excuse. It's an excuse to say why you came to your decision. That's all it is. They don't want it to be true, so they just got to make up a reason on why you left. So why not suggest that you hurt? That's all we can rationally think of, because this Bible got to be real, right? How do you think?
Right. I ended up letting the Bible go, trying to prove Jesus right, trying to prove him real.
Exact same reason, guys. Exact same reason.
I actually went in and dissected the verses, and I just kept saying at the end of my study, just like, but wait a minute. Like every time I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. I can't even prove this right because there's nothing backing it historically. So then I started questioning history and started looking at history, and I'm like, well, this stuff is definitely real. I can see this. I can test it. I can apply mathematics to it. Like, it just adds up. But when I try to deal with the biblical text and match it up, some of it seems like it's like written in code about something else. Let me go study something else. See, that's the thing. We're scared to study other things. You have to get outside. Like, there's a movie. It's called Vantage Point. You may want to watch this if you haven't seen it yet. There's a movie called Vantage Point, and it's about a terrorist trying to blow up like a parliament type building and all of these people in an event, right? And the way the movie is actually choreographed, it's showing the vantage point of all the different people that are at this event before the actual bombing takes place, right? And everybody has a different piece of the truth. You understand? In order for us to get the whole big picture of what actually happened, how these terrorists came in here and was able to blow this thing up. You understand what I'm saying? And this is what we're dealing with when we're dealing with the pie of knowledge, the pie of truth. Everybody has a little piece of the slice, a little piece of the pie. And we have to figure out, okay, what slice do you have? All right, does it fit? All right, cool. If we got to go to this house, let's look what the Hebrew Israelites got. What you got? Does this part fit? All right, we'll take that. We got to sift through it, though. You know what I'm saying? We'll take that. Okay, what you got over here? Christians, let me see what you do. Islam, what you got? Judaism, what you got? And when you take all of these pieces to the pie and you put them together, then you find the truth. You never want to be the guy who goes to court and they don't hear your side of the story. They only hear one side of the story and make the conviction from that. Listen to it all. If you get a book on Hitler, get a book on Gandhi. Get a good book on God, get a book on the devil. Get a book going left, get a book going right. So you can understand and get it all together in the pot. Mix it up, render it, and figure out who's telling the truth and who's lying. Because everybody's not lying. And everybody's not telling the truth.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to ask you guys, what would you guys suggest for somebody who's, I guess, doesn't know how to research or is scared to research the opposite, like Jamar posed? I think it's very valid, but, you know, they say, you know, don't look into that. That's the devil. Don't, you know, can't do that. You straying away. You know, I guess how would somebody who doesn't, A, know how to research, or B, somebody's too scared to research, how do you think they could get out of this, I guess?
You need a good why factor, because fear, right, is what will prevent you from taking that step. You got to have a reason why you're doing what you're doing. You understand? There's always a reason why anybody does what they does. There's a reason why you go to work, right? Some people do it for money. Some people do it to support their families. Some people excel in life. Why? Sometimes they excel not because for themselves. They're doing something for somebody else. People will do amazing things for other people that they won't even do for themselves. I thought about my children. I said, you know what? All of these things that I went through, I said, I do not want them going through that same thing that I went through, the same perspective that I went through. I want them to be better than me. How could I better serve them? What do I need to do to better serve them? I need to take this risk. I need to read what they tell me not to read. Just in case. If it's wrong, I'll discard it. But just in case, I need to make sure. I need to be 150% sure that what I'm feeding the children is accurate and correct. I have to do my just due. So it takes a little bit of why, and also a bit of courage. You have to have courage. Some people just don't have courage. They ain't built that way. You understand? I was lucky enough to have a little bit of courage. I've always been that way, but some people just don't have courage, and they might need someone to assist them. So having a buddy partner and a person of accountability to study with is a really good thing, because that person can go and read it and can help build your courage and put you on to something. That's what we're doing here. You understand? Kev hits me up. We politic. Coach Rams tops in. We politic. This is a buddy system, and we all working together to try and figure out the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And we send each other information, help each other out, even still, guys. And that's the thing that we're trying to do. We're trying to help humanity move forward. So, and to answer your question, just from my side, Josh, I created 2 rules for myself when I walked away from religion, and I ask any religious person and to do this now. The number 1 rule is don't believe the lies that you tell yourself. Don't believe them. If you need to tell yourself something to inspire yourself to keep moving forward, you got this, just keep going. You need to do that, but don't believe the lies you tell yourself. And one of the ways that you do that is don't surround yourself just by people who agree with you, right? Or surround yourself with people who also disagree with you, or listen to people who disagree with you as well. This way you can get other perspectives. The problem with Christianity is you go to church every Sunday. Frankly, you don't even get to hear of any other religions for that matter at all. So how would you know that Jesus was plagiarized from Hebrew? By the time you hear this, you're a grown person, and it's going to be hard to hear. So a lot of it is due to you guys just been in a box your whole life with people that only support what you believe in. So you haven't had a real chance to get any new information because, again, you've been in a small circle. Enlarge that circle. And here's the thing: when you do hear things that disagree with your religion, try and prove them wrong. That's simple. Like now, I didn't actually research out of fear or anything. I researched, like Jamal said, to prove Jesus real. And I want to say this real quick before we get off, guys. I can feel my energy just severely dropping. I'm not well. I'm very sick or whatever, and it sucks because it happened when I started back working out. I'm boxing, and he then gave me a couple good shots. And trust me, I like to say that he looked worse than me, but he don't. He don't got a scratch on him. And I was eager to get back because Jamal, I see you laughing, but years ago he wouldn't have put a hand on me. But I was full of myself, and I told him, I told him, look, I said, don't take it easy on me. You feel me? And he didn't. But at least I know where I am. At least I know where I am. I mean, again, that was upon my request. He facilitated, so I can't be mad. But at the same time, I wanted to get back in the ring, and now I'm sick. And I think he probably thinks I'm playing. He called me the other day. You coming back? I said, dude, I got a virus, bro. Trust me. He was like, yeah, okay. I was like, okay, dude. I swear I can't wait to come back. But I can't go back weak, though. That's the thing. So I'm going to have to get myself together before I go back in there. But I love boxing, man. It's just I can't really find the heart to go to a gym and lift weights right now. So what I do love is boxing. So I'm like, if I'm going to start working out, that's where I'm going to start. But I want to show you guys something. When I walked away from religion, it crushed me so bad. I literally cried like a baby. I went directly to my children's mother and told her first. I wanted her to understand I was walking away from this, and I need our children to be on the right thing too. I didn't want to just go to my children and tell them, or our children and tell them something without her hearing about it first. So logically, she heard it. She wanted to do some research. I sent her some. Then a day or two, she came back. She was like, okay, I see where you're coming from. Well, let's tell them, right? But I'm going to show it to you guys real quick, if you don't mind. I want you to see here. I'm just to show you guys, because a lot of people, they seem to think I'm just this evil person who walked away from religion. You hear a phone ring, and I am actually calling my children's mother. I'm going to have her verify something. Watch this. Hey, how you doing? Can y'all hear this? I want to tell you on my show. I don't know if you was watching the show and knew I was about to call you, but I think it's late. But either which way, I'm telling them about how I walked away from religion. Okay, they can hear. Okay, great. I'm telling them about how when I walked away from religion, when I first found out about religion. You remember that day?
Yes, like it was yesterday.
Will you please tell them what happened?
Oh my goodness. This was like after months of like researching. It was like just right after God, Jesus. You need answers. I need answers. There was so much going on. And he was telling me that he would start researching different things. And he kept seeing stuff like God isn't real. Jesus is a pagan. But years before, we were
Yeah, we did all of that.
We was like, we're going to worship Jesus the way he wants to be worshipped. We're not going to do all this pagan stuff that everybody else is doing at Christmas and Christmas trees and all this stuff.
And I'm going to shine some light on that. I went to her and I said, we've been celebrating pagan holidays this whole time. We got to stop. When I tell you, I was on my knees praying to Jesus to forgive me, crying like a baby, feeling so sad that I've been having my children putting up Christmas trees and crap. When I found out that it was wrong according to the Bible, I stopped. When I tell you that I was the realest dang Christian I knew, because when I tried to tell the church that was wrong to celebrate pagan holidays, they didn't even care. These jokers told me they left their last church because the church didn't want them to do it. I said, what? So why didn't y'all tell me about it so I can make my decision, though? Y'all got Christmas trees in the church, right? So go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but when we were scrolling on the internet, as we were searching, we did see something that said Jesus is a pagan. But I guess it wasn't our time right then to really pay attention to that. We just scrolled right on past it, whatever. And then, let's see, a few years ago, you had came to me and you just burst out in tears and was talking about God ain't real, and I was just so heartbroken. I was speechless. I was so speechless. I didn't know how to help you.
How would you explain my actual cry? Was it something like you had heard before?
Oh my gosh, no, wailing. Like, I'm like, what is this? I mean, it was like a deep hurt.
Shaking, guys. Like, I felt like I was having a nervous breakdown. It meant a lot to me.
Yeah. I was like, how can I help? There was nothing I could do. All I could do was to try to comfort, but it was hard. That was a hard one. But all I could do was just listen. Just listen and be there.
There you go. I just wanted to call you for that real quick, and I really appreciate it. All right. Peace. All right, so I just wanted y'all to understand that I'm human. Like, I didn't just say, Jesus ain't real. Oh, great, and just walk off. Like, no. I was literally crushed. And a lot of you guys were the same way. I saw some people saying, I was hurt when I found out. So please understand that when I lost my faith, that crap like to killed me. Like, I was completely destroyed. Even with all the months and months of research that I had put into it, I was already kind of getting there. But man, when it finally hit, it was like, I couldn't even reenact that. Like, nothing had ever broke me down like that. And my mama did. Understand that I watched my grandma die. All right. So, I mean, I'm talking about most people, a lot of people who real close to me, my pastor who meant the absolute world to me, he died. Right. And that hurt me really more than my mother dying. Right. No, I cried like never before when I lost my sweet Jesus. All right. So please understand that I was once as deep in this stuff as most of you guys. Right. Or deeper. Okay, so I want you guys to understand that I'm not just some demon like they say. I just wanted you guys to see that we all have backgrounds and pasts, because people like to insult and demonize you like you just got a plan to destroy religion. I mean, a plan to come up and sell products so you hate on religion. And so they like to create these scenarios on why you do what you do. When I learned this stuff and actually, I guess, got my wit about me again and got myself together, I said, I want to let the world know, and I'll do anything I can to free people from this religion. Because I was lost, I was like, well, I've been in church doing missionary trips, going back and forth to Cuba, giving away clothes and food. Like, yeah, I was a real missionary, right? And it's like, I was like, what do I do now? Like, my whole life has been ministry, and I was thinking, well, freaking, you can still do that, right? Still continue to help people. Now, again, when I walked away from religion, literally everything changed. Job lost, right? So obviously it was more, and I had a really good job. So obviously I can't help and feed people as much as I could. But with the help of you guys, now I'm being able to do that again, which I really appreciate it. So you guys donating to the nonprofit so we can do those things. This type of stuff makes me happy, and I'd like to encourage you guys. If you walked away from religion, get on board with us, man. Help free the world in whatever way you can help, whether it be giving information, food, like literally sending food, or money, whatever you can do to help. So that's a little bit of my story. Actually, I have a whole book that's going to really explain a lot, but I just wanted you guys to see that. Before I want to thank Jamal, of course, Lorenzo, and I want to see if they want to say anything else before we wrap up. After that, that's all. I've said all I'm going to say. I'm really tired, and I'm going to let Jamal and Lorenzo take us away.
Nobody care if you're tired. Nobody care nothing about you being tired. You're going to stay here for 4 hours. Tell them, Josh. 4 hours.
Negative.
Lorenzo, my people love me. They ain't going to keep me on here like that.
Now, they mine do too. Trust me.
I do want to say, Kev, I appreciate you for sharing that story, or as they would say in the congregation, for your testimony.
Wow.
Because, you know, Dad, you know, when you first wake up, you know, it's a lonely place. You know what I'm saying? Because it's something that you do by yourself, and I think that's what most people don't realize. You could be in a room full of 1 million people, and when you wake up, you suddenly feel alone because your reality has now shifted to an opposite paradigm where there's endless possibilities instead of just one truth that you've been told your whole life. And it is very hurtful. You know, I have been there. I've been in that room. I mean, the room that I was in, I stayed in that room for about 6 months and didn't come out. You know, I had food delivered and barely washed my behind. I was in there studying so crazy, you know, after that. So I know the pain, I know the feeling, and, you know, sharing that is what helps people to realize that it's okay. You understand? It's okay to go through it. You can go through it. You'll be okay going through it, and you're going to be okay when you come up out on the other end. So, you know, I appreciate that, and I commend you for putting that out there, because you even helped me out, you know, to realize, you know, that I'm still not alone in this. You understand? And it's necessary. Those type of testimonies are necessary for the people that's waking up in this day and age. So thank you.
Let me thank Star Child for a donation. I also want to thank Shondell. And Shondell, I heard what you said. I like that, actually. We'll definitely get into those ideas. We definitely will get into those ideas, man. So we know that we do want to meet other like-minded people. So I think that'll be a really good show. Lorenzo, was there anything you were going to say?
Yeah, because I mean, I do appreciate your story. Is awesome. And to have your lady on there to corroborate it just, you know, makes it even more real. And the fact that y'all have that relationship where she can do it, that just makes it even greater. The thing about it is, to kind of also what Josh has said about what do people do who are coming out of it, because I had an interesting experience. I think it was Friday. Yeah, I think it was Friday. I went to go deliver some products to a young lady. When I knock on the door, she's like, I know you the popcorn man, but did I see you on Kevin's show last week or the other week? And I was like, yeah, that was right. Now I'm looking at this woman that she's been a customer of mine for like 4 years. So I was like a little bit, because, you know, you gotta test people out, you know, to see what they mind. But, you know, she was like, you know, she was a 7-day Adventist, and a year ago she came out of it. She came out of it, right? And her husband had came out before that, but he never pressured her. He just kind of let her come on her own. And I'm not going to tell her whole story because that's not my place to do so. But one of the things that her and I spent the next 45 minutes talking about was coming together. Because we are spread out. It's great that we have the internet, but there's nothing like being able to sit in the same room as somebody and conversate with them. To sit in the same room and meditate with them, or whatever it is you do. Like, you know, I pay attention to chakras and energy and things like that. So if I'm with like-minded people, to come together like that, and we spent about 45 minutes talking about coming together, but not creating a church and nor creating a religion, definitely not that, but just being able to come together, like-minded, just discuss, talk, build community, you know, do the things that the church won't do, the mosque won't do, the synagogue won't do, which is to build up the community that you live in and make your community better, regardless of the people. If the people are Christian, Muslim, whatever they are, a hungry man is a hungry man. Mm-hmm. People sitting in the house with no lights on, or people sitting in the house with no lights on. People who need to get educated on on finances, or just people who need to get educated on finance. It doesn't matter, but just building something where we're coming together. And I want to challenge everybody where they are to be able to start gathering with people to begin to do that. When I was in Texas, you know, I met with a couple of people, and that's one of the things that we're talking about, is how can we get something going in Texas, you know, in Dallas. And I know you're going there. I know Jamar goes there. So evidently there's like-minded people in that area who can come together and do things. And I think that will help people who are walking away, who are, waking up, to be able to say, okay, I'm not by myself, and I can physically touch the other people who are there. And that will make it easier, because a lot of people are losing family and friends and whatnot. And, and they need to realize that family ain't got nothing to do with blood. Family is about how we treat each other and and how we deal with it. So that's my last little thing for this evening. We'll let Kevin get some rest.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I want y'all to spread the word. Next week, let's just do it. Thank you very much, Daddy. That means a lot. I want you guys to spread the word. Next week, we're going to do a show where you guys can call in, say what areas you live in, just so we can try to build that type of camaraderie, right? So if you're looking for love, friendship, anything like that, you'll be able to call into the show, tell a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and things like that. We'll have a whole show basically just around finding each other. Because, again, for people who live down in the area of the Bible Belt, it's really hard for them to find other people who agree with them. And I have other people that's like-minded they can talk with, hang out with, anything like that. And it's not that we have anything against Christians. People say that, Kevin, you don't like Christians, but, man, I'm feeding Christians. When I'm out there feeding those homeless people, they're thanking Jesus for it, guys. Like, trust me. And I don't mind at all. They just need to be fed, and that's not what I'm there for. Somebody asked me one time, I took someone with me, and they was just like, they said, thank you, Jesus, and they told him that, no, don't say that. And I said, don't tell them that. These people are homeless, man. Like, they don't even have the ability to go research. They can't do this stuff. Just feed them the food and move on. We're not here to take their hope from them. You know what I mean? A lady had a book that said something about Jesus or whatever, and the lady told her you need to do away with all those false hope books. And I was just like, no, that's not why we're here. I'm literally not out there like that, guys. I'm literally helping people. And I know a lot of you guys want to do the same things. So, yeah, by all means, we'll have this show next week where you guys can call in and all that good stuff. So, and for anybody who's interested in me, I'm going to tell everybody right now, I'm not interested in anything like that right now. I'm trying to get my life together from getting fired, okay? I'm trying to get my life together. So, I'm not interested in anything like that. So, just so you know. Listen, because honestly, they do ask, and women are sapiosexual because they're intelligent, but I just have to let them know right now, for me, that's not something I'm into. But I know a lot of people are looking for that right now in their life, and we're going to have this show next week, and we're going to get into it. Hopefully, people will be able to find some friends and some people they can connect with that's in their area next week. So if there is nothing else, we're going to get out of here.
No, two things. Two things. Somebody said that, it was, of course, Alton. He said that we need to have Christian scholars on. I'm only bringing this up because it's actually relevant. Mm-hmm. We are considering having one individual who I guess people would consider a scholar. He has, like, people attending his classes or whatever. We may have him on, maybe not. I do want to say as a quick side note, there's no scholar that can prove Jesus' existence or any God's existence. It's all literature, so don't get too excited. Absolutely. Second point. Somebody asked if we're going to do a show on contradictions in the, I guess a full show on contradictions. We probably will, or maybe do something like that, small show. But more importantly, we will be having an app for that you guys can have on the go. If you guys ever want to reference that stuff, so look out for that. It'll be pretty good. I'll make sure it looks pretty good.
Absolutely.
And that's all.
And thank you very much, Black Queen.
You got 15 seconds before it's 2 hours, so I want to end it before it gets there. I think that's all, guys.
Record. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Josh.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Love you all.
Do I.
All right. Peace.
Appreciate it, everybody.